Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, I will now continue the unfinished story. Chapter 230. 230 Desyaun vs Chuyiyi, 4. Perhaps it was because she had just brought along her newly obtained demonic beast to show off, her pretty little face still had a trace of red and her eyes were full of smiles. However, when she saw Baiji who had fallen to the ground and couldn't get up, the light in her eyes became even more intense. So you guys are beating up Baiji? Can I join in? She rubbed her palms excitedly, her eyes full of anticipation. Desyaun's face was filled with confusion. Where did this girl come from? Chuyiyi glanced at Desyaun. Even if she didn't like this woman who wanted to snatch little Chen Er away, she still explained, Bai Yan's younger cousin. Sister-in-law's cousin? So, he was one of them. Desyaun's eyes lit up and he held Lan Xiao's hand enthusiastically, cousin, you don't have to be polite. Hit me however you like. I'll take responsibility if you die. Baiji almost spat out a mouthful of blood. What did he mean by you're welcome? What did Desyaun think he was? In comparison, Lan Xiaoun was shocked by Desyaun's enthusiasm. When did she become this woman's cousin? Why didn't she know? Enough, you guys. I'll *CKU. Before she could finish her sentence, a foot landed on Baiji's face, stopping her from saying anything else. Who allowed you to speak? Desyaun snorted, I haven't settled the score with you yet. You still dare to speak? Are you afraid that I'll forget you or something? Lan Xiaoun saw that Desyaun was having a good time fighting, and a sinister smile gathered in her eyes. Baiji, to think that you would have such a day. I haven't had enough of beating you up before, so let's continue today. Woo. Baiji sobbed non-stop, but she couldn't make a sound. Her eyes were filled with tears and despair, and her heart was eroded by regret. The three women's fighting strength couldn't be underestimated. Under their continuous kicking, Baiji couldn't even cry in the end and was actually kicked unconscious by them. A few of his ribs were broken. Let's see if you still dare to treat me as a fool in the future. Desyaun hated being cheated the most. After all, when she was in the demon world, she had been deceived by many people. Fortunately, her brother and the state preceptor had been watching over her at that time, so she had not suffered too much harm. And, Bai Xiaochen walked to Desyaun's side and tugged at her sleeve. What exactly happened just now? How do you know Baiji? Desyaun pouted and told her what had happened. After that, she continued to kick Baiji's battered body a few more times. Bai Xiaoqin's eyes widened in shock. This Yingluo was the little sister of his bad daddy? Could he be a fake? Shouldn't the fox race be cunning and sinister? Why was this aunt of his so silly and sweet? He almost believed someone else. Chen Er, is this your aunt? Lan Xiaoun blinked her eyes and looked at Desyaun curiously. She was indeed very beautiful, but her character was too resentful. She didn't dare to believe that she was Dikang's younger sister. Of course I'm little Chen Er's aunt. Desyaun put his hands on his hips, it's the real deal. I came all the way here just to see my sister-in-law and nephew. Shouldn't you be looking for your brother first? Lan Xiaoun was stunned. This one, Desyaun was very conflicted. After thinking for a while, he answered honestly, he's just a bonus. It doesn't matter if I see him or not. Bai Xiaochen was stunned once again. Why did he feel that this pair of siblings were very abnormal? Previously, her bad father wanted to hang her up and beat her up. Now that she hadn't seen her bad father for a few years, she still said that he was just a side effect? It doesn't matter if I see him or not. Chapter 231. 231 Chapter 225 Facing a Common Enemy. And, Bad Daddy will be sad if you say that. Bai Xiaochen blinked his large eyes, and a hint of sympathy appeared on his adorable face. He won't. Desyaun's mouth twitched. My brother has always said that I'm annoying and stupid. He also said that he wanted to marry me as soon as possible so that he wouldn't have to see me often. He doesn't want to see me, but I don't want to see him either. Even the state preceptor is much gentler than him. Desyaun really didn't know what sin he had committed to have such a brother, who had been oppressed by him for so many years. Little Chen Er, your mother is waiting for us at home. Let's go back. Chuyiyi held Bai Xiaoqin's small hand and turned around to walk back to the street they came from. Desyaun followed behind them, silently following them. Why are you following me? Chuyiyi turned her head and glared at Desyaun as she spoke in an unpleasant tone. To go home, of course, Desyaun raised his eyebrows. Chuyiyi was so angry that she laughed. That's Bai Yan and Chen Er's home. Your home is in the Azure Emperor's residence. I can get someone to send you back. Bai Yan is my sister-in-law and Chen Er is my nephew. Their family is equivalent to my family. Am I obstructing you by coming home? She had no choice. Little Chen Er was her brother's biological child. Just based on this point alone, Chu Yi had no right to stop her. This one. Lan Xiaoun was a little confused about the situation. She said weakly, weren't you guys fine just now? Why did you guys start quarreling? The two of them had clearly cooperated so well just now, so why did they look like they were about to start fighting over a disagreement? Who asked her to snatch my nephew away? De Xiaoun put his hands on his hips. Little Chen Er is mine, and so is sister-in-law. I won't let you have it. You want to fight? All right. I'll keep you company. Chu Yi was enraged. She let go of Bai Xiaoqin's hand and raised her chin to glare at De Xiaoun. Lan Xiaoun was probably the one who didn't understand the situation the most. She scratched her head anxiously and her eyes suddenly lit up. Yi, Miss De, during the years when my cousin left Luhuo Kingdom, there were many people who cursed her behind her back. In an instant, the two young girls who were glaring at each other suddenly regained their senses. Their eyes were filled with anger as they glared at Lan Xiaoun. Xiaoun, tell me, who scolded Bai Yan? I'm going to find her to settle the score. This group of unruly people is so bold. They even dare to scold my sister-in-law. The two of them spoke at the same time, and their angry voices resounded through the street. Lan Xiaoun's eyes curved into crescents. That's not all. Especially after they found out that Chen Er is Prince Kang's son, those women in Luhuo Kingdom who are in love with Prince Kang humiliated my cousin behind her back. However, I have already collected a list of those people. It's time to settle the score with them. First, let's start with the sixth princess of the imperial family. Not only did she scold my cousin, but she also bullied Chen Er and set fire to Prince Kang's residence. Even though Prince Kang has already taught her a lesson, I think Qian should be the first to take action. Lan Xiaoun took out the name list she had collected and pointed at the top. Let's go, we're going to find those B****s to settle the score. De Xiaoun rolled up his sleeves, looking like he was about to fight. Chu Yi nodded her head in agreement. Xiaoun, lead the way. We'll go find them now. Seeing that the two of them were facing a common enemy, Lan Xiaoun finally heaved a sigh of relief. No matter what, stopping them from fighting was her top priority. As for the sixth princess Qian, she could only blame her bad luck. Sister Chu, Aunt, let's Yingying. Bai Xiaochen originally wanted to say that they should go back to see mother first, but these two people were only thinking about finding the sixth princess to settle the score, and they disappeared from his sight like a gust of wind. He was left alone in the wind. Chapter 232. 232 Chapter 226 My brother is Dick Kang. At the princess's manor. Hundreds of flowers bloomed, competing for beauty. In the back garden, the young girl angrily plucked the flower petals, her beautiful face filled with hatred. Ever since that day, when she was framed and set on fire to the Azure Emperor's residence for no reason, her father had ordered her to go to the residence to apologize. However, she did not even get to see Prince Kang's face. She had to kneel in the ruins for a day and a night. In the end, she was even bitten by a firebird that had rushed out of the prince's residence. That bite almost bit off her arm, skin, and bones. She was so scared that she fainted on the spot. When she woke up, she returned to the manor. A man like the Azure Emperor really doesn't know how to show tender and protective feelings for women. I'm a great beauty, so why does she ignore me in every way? The sixth princess's eyes were filled with unwillingness. She still could not understand what was so good about a woman like Bai Yan. Why would she make Prince Kang protect her so much? At this moment, a chuckle came from behind her, which startled the sixth princess. She hurriedly turned around and saw Lan Xiaoun in a blue gauze dress standing in front of her. There were two young girls standing on either side of Lan Xiaoun. At this moment, they were both staring at her with angry eyes. Lan Xiaoun, what are you doing here? The sixth princess gritted her teeth fiercely. She was afraid of Dick Kang and did not dare to touch Bai Yan and her son. Could it be that Hua would film a Lan Xiaoun? I heard that you're trying to seduce my brother? You even scolded my sister-in-law and bullied my nephew. De Xiaoun put his hands on his hips and raised his chin arrogantly, casting a disdainful glance at the panicking sixth princess. You, who's your brother? My brother is Dick Kang. After saying this, De Xiaoun no longer planned to give the sixth princess a chance to speak. In a flash, he rushed in front of the sixth princess like a lightning bolt and punched her into the sky, then she fell down rapidly. Unfortunately, before she could land on the ground, Chu Yi flew up and gave her another kick, sending her into the blue sky again. Lan Xiaoun's eyes widened in surprise. She looked at De Xiaoun and Chu Yi, who were cooperating with each other so well, and then at the sixth princess, who had not fallen behind since she was blasted into the sky. A hint of sympathy gradually appeared in her eyes. Most of them were gloating. On this day, the entire Luhuo kingdom was destined to not be peaceful. One Chu Yi was enough to turn Luhuo kingdom upside down. Now, with the addition of Diziaoun, the entire imperial city would be in their hands. At this moment, Bai Yan, who was helping Bai Zhanpeng refine the medicinal pill, was completely unaware of all this. These are the 5th grade vitality regeneration pills. Bai Yan walked into the hall and placed the bottle in her hand in front of Bai Zhanpeng, who had been waiting for a long time. The corners of her lips curled up. There are a total of 100 pills here. It's enough for you to consume. You don't have much use for the remaining pills. Just treat it as my reward. Bai Zhanpeng's calm eyes were filled with excitement. He carefully picked up the few pill bottles in front of him and said in a hoarse voice, "Miss Bai, thank you. You have saved me this time. If you need any help in the future, I, Bai Zhanpeng, will definitely not shirk from it." Bai Yan smiled. "Other than the vitality regeneration pill that I gave you, I still have quite a few left for myself. So, we're even. The debt of saving my life can never be repaid." Bai Zhanpeng stood up and said, "Miss Bai, you and I hit it off very well. Why don't I call you Yan Er and you call me Uncle Bai?" Bai Yan was stunned. She raised her head and looked at Bai Zhanpeng's serious and sincere eyes. She nodded slightly. "All right, Uncle White." Chapter 233. 233. Just keep an eye on her. A smile appeared on Bai Zhanpeng's face. He looked at the little girl in front of him, and it was as if he was looking at his younger sister from back then. However, before her younger sister went missing, she was about the same age as this girl. Now that more than 20 years had passed, even if she was still alive, she could already be Bai Yan's mother. "Yan Er, Uncle Bai will be staying in the Imperial City for a while. If you need anything, you can come to the Dragon Phoenix Inn to find me. Old Gu, let's go." He turned back to look at Bai Yan before turning around and walking out of the door. When he walked out of the old house, the ancient voice sounded, "Young master, you're almost fully recovered now and you've also obtained the vitality regeneration pill. Don't we have to return to medicine order first?" Bai Zhanpeng shook his head and looked at the house behind him. A gentle smile appeared on his handsome face. "It's not easy to meet a girl who looks so much like her, how can I bear to leave? Old Gu, let's stay for another half a month. I'm really tired now." He was really unwilling to leave her. "But she's not the young miss," old man Gu sighed. "I know." The smile on Bai Zhanpeng's face turned bitter. "Old Gu, you don't have to say anything more. I've already made up my mind. Besides, I just need to look after Qian. He had no other requests, even if it was just to look at her face. He could still fantasize about her being by his side, teasing him. Old man Gu looked at Bai Zhanpeng's determined face and did not know what to say. He could only sigh. "Then I'll write a letter to tell sect master about your matter." "All right." Bai Zhanpeng frowned. "However, Old Gu, I don't want you to tell anyone about Yan Er." "Why?" Old Gu asked in surprise. "She is very talented in alchemy and has even solved a problem that has troubled medicine sect for a long time. I don't want anyone to disturb her peace." The corners of Bai Zhanpeng's mouth rose slightly as he ordered. Only then did old man Gu come back to his senses. That's right, if Miss Bai Yan's talent were to spread out, those old fogies in medicine sect would definitely come running to Luhuo Kingdom. At that time, Miss Bai Yan would definitely suffer quite a bit of harassment. "I understand, young master. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone about this." Old man Gu's expression was solemn. In order to not let Miss Bai Yan be disturbed, this was the most secure method. "Let's go. I'll leave this place and return to medicine sect in half a month." Bai Zhanpeng let out a soft sigh. Half a month was more than enough. If he stayed any longer, his father would probably send someone here immediately. At that time, the fact that he allowed Yan Er to be in the family would be exposed. Inside the old mansion. After Bai Zhanpeng left, Bai Yan planned to return to her room to continue refining medicinal pills. Just as she turned her head, she saw Bai Zioken's small head sticking out and looking around sneakily. "Little Chen Er, what are you doing?" The corner of her lips curled up. This sound made Bai Xiaochen jump in shock. He carefully walked out from behind a tree and looked at Bai Yan with some embarrassment and unease. "Mother, Zhen. What's wrong?" Bai Yan frowned slightly, feeling that Bai Xiaochen was a little different today. Bai Xiaochen crossed his fingers and bit his cute lips lightly. "Mother, you have to be mentally prepared, Zhen. What happened?" Bai Yan was startled as she continued to ask. "Just now, Sister Chu and Anta went out to cause trouble. You should be prepared. I think there will be many people coming to find Mother." The name list that Lan Xiaoun had taken out this time basically included all the ladies in the boudoir in the Imperial City. If these people were all beaten up, the entire Imperial City would be in chaos. Although, Bai Xiaochen also felt that there was nothing wrong with Chu Yiyi and Lan Xiaoyun's actions. Chapter 234. 234 Sister-in-law, please take me in. Bai Yan's face darkened. Chu Yiyi brought Lan Xiaoyun out to cause trouble. Mother, you've wronged elder sister Chu. This time, it wasn't elder sister Chu who brought Andi to cause trouble. It was Andi who brought her. Bai Xiaochen pouted his small pink lips and tugged at Bai Yan's sleeve, saying pitifully, what's more despicable is that they didn't bring Chen Er along when they went to cause trouble. After all this, Bai Xiaochen was very dissatisfied with Chu Yiyi and the others' behavior. How could they forget about him when it came to causing trouble? Bai Yan's expression turned even darker. Her fist gently knocked Bai Xiaoken's head. You better behave yourself. We'll talk after I'm done with this. Chu Yiyi never knew who was right or wrong when she caused trouble and would beat up whoever she didn't like. There were countless young talents who had been beaten up by her in the Holy Land. However, Lan Xiaoyun's personality wasn't like that. Since she was the one who started it, there must be some reason she didn't know about. Oh, that's right. Bai Xiaochen tilted his small head, his large clean eyes clear. Mother, do you still remember what father said before he left? I remember. Bai Yan nodded slightly. He said he was going to look for his younger sister. The other thing that Chen Er wanted to say is this. Bai Xiaochen was at a loss for a long time. And, she's. Right at this moment, Lan Xiaoyun's joyful voice rang out from outside the door, interrupting Bai Xiaoken's words. Bai Yan raised her head. Just as she saw Lan Xiaoyun, who was standing at the entrance of the courtyard, a figure that was faster than the wind rushed towards Bai Yan in a daze. A sense of vigilance immediately rose in Bai Yan's eyes. Out of her body's instinctive reaction, she directly raised her leg and kicked that person's body with a thud. Lan Xiaoyun and Chu Yiyi's mouths were wide open in shock as they watched the young girl's body turn into an arc of light and shoot out. She then fell from the sky in a sorry state and lay on the ground with her forelegs up. Perhaps she was dazed from the fall, her beautiful eyes were wide open, and she lay on the ground for a long time without any reaction. Who are you? Bai Yan's expression sank as she asked coldly. Mother Qian. Bai Xiaochen tugged at Bai Yan's clothes from behind. When he looked at the young girl who had fallen to the ground, his innocent eyes were filled with sympathy. That's little Aunt Qian. Aunt. Bai Yan frowned. Yingluo's bad daddy's younger sister. Bai Yan was startled and looked at the young girl who was stunned from the fall in surprise. You're Chen Er's aunt. Why would Chen Er's aunt be with Chu Yiyi and the others? Di Xiaoyun finally came out of her dazed state. She shook her head hard, got up from the ground, and patted the dust on her sleeves. Sister-in-law, Yingluo. She pouted and almost cried out of grievance, you're so cruel. I only wanted to hug you, but you actually kicked me, Yingluo. The corners of Bai Yan's brows twitched. Anyone who saw a stranger rushing over without saying a word would not be able to stop. This was also Di Xiaoyun's fault for not even saying hello. Sister-in-law, Di Xiaoyun looked pitiful, I'm homeless now, can you take me in? Your brother is looking for you. You can go to him. As soon as she heard that her brother was looking for her everywhere, Di Xiaoyun couldn't help but shiver. She shrunk her neck and chuckled, Sister-in-law, if I leave the house without permission, my brother will beat me to death if he catches me. I think it's safer for me to stay here. Let me stay. Chapter 235. 235 Are you sure you want to stay? Are you sure you want to stay? Bai Yan's eyes flickered a few times and the corners of her lips curled up into an arc as she asked with a smile. Can I really stay here? Di Xiaoyun's eyes lit up. You're always welcome to stay, but I hope you don't regret it, Yingluo. At this moment, Di Xiaoyun still did not know that Dikang had stayed at Bai Yan's residence before her. By the time she discovered it, it was already too late. Sister Yan. Chu Yiyi pouted her small mouth and glared at Di Xiaoyun unwillingly. Her pitiful gaze turned towards Bai Yan. Are you really going to take this woman in? Di Xiaoyun snorted coldly and raised his beautiful face arrogantly, why can't I stay? This is my sister-in-law's house, not yours. You don't have to say anything. Di Xiaoyun, do you want to fight again? Chu Yiyi's face was completely red as she spoke angrily. Fine, I'll fight you. Do you think I, Di Xiaoyun, will be afraid of you? Even though Di Xiaoyun had been oppressed by Dikang since he was young, the elders in the demon realm had spoiled her to the point where she was lawless. In addition, there was also the state preceptor who obeyed her in everything. This was why her personality was so similar to Chu Yiyi's. They were both pampered princesses. Just as the two of them were about to start fighting, a heavy voice suddenly came from the side. Chu Yiyi and Di Xiaoyun were shocked and quickly turned their heads. Bai Yan's fist landed on the doorframe as her face darkened. When she saw the two young girls looking over, her cold voice floated out. If you want to fight, go out and fight. After you're done, Go back to where you came from and don't come back. Chu Yi and Diziaoun were so frightened that they took 2 steps back. They did not even dare to take a deep breath as they looked at Bai Yan with aggrieved expressions. Over here, you must abide by my rules. Seeing that the 2 of them had quietened down, Bai Yan's tone gradually became more stable. If you don't listen, then I will immediately send you away. Chen let's go. Bai Yan turned her head and pulled Bai Xiaoqin's hand. Then, she picked up Xiaomi, who was watching the show by the side, and slowly walked towards the backyard. When the gorgeous red dress disappeared, Diziaoun finally let out a breath that she had been holding in. She raised her hand and touched her chest, looking frightened. You scared me to death, Yingluo. It was no wonder that his brother had not conquered his sister-in-law after so long. It would be strange if his brother could conquer such a strong woman easily. That's still considered light. Chu Yi's expression finally relaxed. Back then, I set fire to Bai Yan's Grand Master's treasure pavilion and almost got killed by her. It's that scary. Diziaoun felt his heart thumping. He looked at Chu Yi beside him and felt that she was in the same boat as him. I suddenly pity you, Zhen Zhen. If you pity me, why don't you let her be my sister-in-law? Chu Yi's eyes flickered. The sympathy on Diziaoun's face had yet to fade away when he suddenly heard such a sentence. His beautiful face turned red with anger. You're dreaming. Sister-in-law is so beautiful, and whatever she does is right. I will never give her to you. Seeing that the 2 of them were about to start arguing again, Lan Xiaoun finally returned to her senses. She pretended to be surprised and shouted, Hey, cousin, why are you out here? This sentence scared the 2 of them so much that their hearts almost stopped beating. Diziaoun was quick-witted as he stretched out his arms and hugged Chu Yi tightly. Yi, I was just joking with you. I will never fight with you again. Chapter 236 236 Chapter 230, The Righteous Diziaoun. The corners of Chu Yi's mouth stiffened, but she still cooperated and said, I know a few tea houses nearby that are pretty good. I'll take you there to try them tomorrow. Sure. Diziaoun smiled like a flower. She looked to the side, and her beautiful eyes seemed to be able to speak, bright and moving. Sister-in-law, do you want to come along? Where's sister-in-law? There was nothing around them. Where was the person? Chu Yi was also stunned before she regained her senses. Lan Xiaoun lied to us. What? Diziaoun cried out in surprise. She turned around and wanted to settle the score with Lan Xiaoun, but suddenly realized that Lan Xiaoun, who was standing at the same place a moment ago, had disappeared. Are we still going to fight? Chu Yi bit her lips. What fight? What if sister-in-law really kicks me out, will you take me in? Diziaoun rolled his eyes at her. Also, take me to the tea house you mentioned just now. You're paying. I don't have any silver. Diziaoun was very self-righteous. Even though there were countless treasures in her storage bag, she was only short of silver. I'm just unlucky. Chu Yi's pretty face was flushed red. She was clearly angry. She had never seen someone treat her like this. When Diziaoun heard that Chu Yi was willing to treat him, his expression became a little better. Since you've treated me to tea and snacks, I'll forgive you for trying to steal my sister-in-law away. Chu Yi's breathing stopped. She finally believed that this girl was Dikang's little sister. On that day, Dikang was just so shameless in front of Bai Yan. In the study, Hualuo walked in. She looked at the woman in red, who had her back to the sun, and bowed slightly. Master, what instructions do you have for me? Hualuo, go to the prince's mansion and tell Dikang's guards that the person Yingluo is looking for has arrived. Bai Yan raised her lips and said indifferently. Hualuo accepted the order and retreated. Just as she was about to leave, Bai Yan's voice rang out again. Wait. Does master have any other instructions? While you're at it, get someone to tell Dikang that even if it's Diziaoun's fault for leaving the clan on his own, it's because he left her alone for so many years. If he dares to cause trouble here, I will never let him take a step into my territory again in this life. Bai Xiao Chen, who was quietly playing with Xiaomi by the side, suddenly heard Bai Yan's words. He was stunned for a moment and had a bitter expression on his face. Should he tell his mother that his aunt said that he didn't come here for Bad Daddy and that it didn't matter whether he saw Bad Daddy or not? Hualuo laughed. Don't look at how his master had just reprimanded that Miss Di. In fact, he was very concerned about her. Otherwise, he would not have asked someone to pass on this sentence to Dikang. After Hualuo left, Bai Xiao Chen raised his young and tender face, bit his thin lips tightly, and hesitated for a long time. Mother, are you worried about aunt? It's already not easy for a young lady like her to travel so far to find her brother. If Dikang still chastises her for this, wouldn't she be very sad? Aunt is not upset because of Bad Daddy. Looking at Bai Xiaoqin's innocent little face, Bai Yan smiled and rubbed his little head. If it wasn't for him, why would your aunt come to this place? And when I see Ziaoun, I think of Xiao Xiao Xiao. Didn't she also leave Bai Yan behind for many years? She had made Bai Yan wait for her for so many years? This kind of waiting was unbearable. If Ziaoun was really going to be reprimanded, then she would be more pitiful than Bai Ran. Chapter 237 237 Chapter 231 Trouble at the Door. Chen you and Xiaomi should go and rest first. I still have to prepare to deal with tomorrow's matters. Yingluo. A cold glint flickered in Bai Yan's eyes as the corners of her lips curled up slightly. Goodbye, mother. Bai Xiaochen stood on his tiptoes and kissed Bai Yan's face with a swoosh. He picked up Xiaomi's tail and walked out of the study. Xiaomi, let's not disturb mother. Let's go find Little Feather to play. Who is Little Feather? It's a gift from my aunt, a white phoenix. It has too many feathers, so I gave it a small feather Kezaya. The corner of Xiaomi's mouth twitched. That white phoenix. Little Feather. It suddenly pitied the white phoenix, but then it remembered its own name and could not sympathize with it anymore. No matter what, Little Feather is better than the name Xiaomi. The morning sun had just risen. Bai Yan was awoken by a wave of noise. When she heard the commotion coming from outside the door, she frowned slightly and slowly opened her eyes. Hualuo, what happened? Hearing this, Hualuo, who had been waiting outside the door for a long time, pushed the door open and entered with a smile on her seductive face. Master, it's just a group of insignificant people. I've already sent people to drive them away and will not disturb your rest. The corners of Bai Yan's lips raised. I've already expected them to come for me, but I didn't expect them to come so quickly. Hualuo, let them in. Hualuo wasn't surprised. She nodded slightly. Yes, master. After saying that alluring figure turned around and left, immediately disappearing from Bai Yan's line of sight. In the main hall, the group of people whispered to each other and discussed animatedly. Their faces were clearly filled with anger. When he saw King Chinch's figure slowly walking in under the morning light, the anger on his face intensified. Miss Bai, I wonder what wrong my granddaughter has done. Your people are going to find trouble with her. And my poor daughter, she's been beaten up so badly that she can't even get out of bed. You have to give us an explanation for this. That's right. Although you're the owner of the Phoenix House and have a high status, you can't beat people up for no reason. If you don't give us an explanation, we're not playing. Bai Yan slowly walked in. A graceful red dress flashed in front of everyone's eyes and in an instant, she was already seated at the main seat. She stroked her red dress and a smile appeared on her beautiful face. She said indifferently, it's so lively this morning. So many people are here to find trouble with me. At this moment, the woman in the seat of honor was domineering and sharp. The pressure from her body suddenly rose, making some people want to retreat. This was the lady of the Phoenix House, the Kang Emperor's woman. Would they really be able to escape unscathed if they came to find trouble with her? Miss Bai. A middle-aged man walked out of the crowd with one hand behind his back and a cold gaze. Others may fear your strength, but I, Zhang Fei Yang, am not. You're the master of Phoenix House, so you can indulge the people around you? If you don't give me an explanation, I won't give up. Bai Yan supported her face with one hand as her red clothes spilled down, looking extremely beautiful. Then what kind of explanation do you want me to give you? Your men hit my daughter, so you should compensate them. The middle-aged man's eyes darkened and he said, I don't ask for much, just a few pills. It was said that those medicinal pills in Bai Xiao's hands were all given to him by Bai Yan. Then, she must have even more medicinal pills in her possession. How could they not take advantage of this opportunity to extort? Chapter 238 238 Solving the Problem. Bai Yan finally understood the intention of these people and could not help but laugh. Lord Zhang, are you trying to extort me? Miss Bai, you're wrong. I just want what I should have. How can this be considered extortion? Besides, you're the one who ordered your men to commit the crime. Looking at Zhang Fei Yang's smug expression, the smile on Bai Yan's lips deepened. It's not that I can't give you the pill, but I have an even bigger gift for you. After saying this, she flipped her palm and a thin book appeared in her palm. She gave Hualuo a look, and Hualuo understood. He took the thin book and slowly walked toward Zhang Fei Yang. I hope you'll like my gift. Bai Yan was full of smiles. Her eyes were filled with smiles, but her voice was chilly, causing the temperature of the entire hall to drop by a few degrees. Zhang Fei Yang frowned and took the thin book from Hualuo. After reading the contents of the thin book, his originally disapproving expression suddenly turned pale. This booklet recorded all the crimes he had committed over the years, and even the number of mistresses he had. For so many years, he did not have a single concubine in his residence. It was all because of the tigress he married back then. However, he had his status today because of the Yu family, so he did not dare to go back on his wife's words. If the news of him having a mistress was known by his wife, it would be a devastating disaster. You, he raised his eyes in shock and looked at Bai Yan's smiling face. His voice trembled. How do you know all this? Bai Yan laughed, in this world, there is no news that I do not know. Of course, I know everything about everyone here. If you continue to find trouble with me, I don't mind publicizing all this. Zhang Fei Yang's palm was trembling. His face was very ugly. He gritted his teeth and did not make a sound. Let's go back. He hardened his heart and turned to leave. Hold on. Suddenly, a cold voice came from behind him. Zhang Fei Yang was so scared that his body stiffened. He turned his head stiffly. Miss Bai, I've already decided to leave. What else do you want? I just want to know, who instigated you to come and cause trouble for me today? Bai Yan asked with a cold smile. With her current power, if no one instigated her, she really didn't dare to believe that these people would come to find trouble with her. I don't understand what you're talking about. Zhang Fei Yang's face turned even uglier. Is that so? Bai Yan's lips curled up into a light smile. It seems that you all don't want to tell me the truth. Since that's the case, Hualuo, announce the contents of these thin books to the world. I want to make them lose all their reputation. From the moment Chu Yi and the others started causing trouble, Bai Yan knew that these people would definitely take the opportunity to settle scores with her. However, even if they planned to come, they would have time to think about it. However, what Bai Yan did not expect was that these people would rush over so early in the morning. The decision they made so quickly made Bai Yan feel that something was not right. Master, don't worry. I will do this well. Hualuo smiled enchantingly. She looked at Zhang Fei Yang and the others with disdain, and her lips curved into a sarcastic smile. These people really wouldn't shed tears until they saw the coffin. They even dared to find trouble with their master, wasn't that the same as seeking death? Wait, seeing that Hualuo was about to leave, Zhang Fei Yang became anxious. He couldn't care about anything else and hurriedly said, I said, it's the Crown Prince, Zhen Zhen. Chapter 239. 239 Chapter 233 Not only was he blackmailed, but he was also blackmailed. The Crown Prince. Nangang Yi. The corners of Bai Yan's lips curled up and her peerless face carried a cold smile. What is Nangang Yi's purpose? Miss Bai, Zhang Fei Yang's face stiffened for a moment and continued, the Crown Prince wants us to find trouble with you. When the time comes, he will come out to help you. In this way, you will be grateful to him and forget about the past grudges. As for asking for the elixir, it was my own decision. Nangang Yi's thoughts were very beautiful, but he had forgotten that with Bai Yan's identity, how could she place these people who were looking for trouble in her eyes? Sensing the increasingly heavy atmosphere in the hall, the royal grandsons and nobles who had come with Zhang Fei Yang became anxious. Miss Bai, I don't know what Zhang Fei Yang promised the Crown Prince. But last night, Zhang Fei Yang came to see us and asked us to come with him. Yes, I was not happy at first, but Zhang Fei Yang told me that you would not blame so many of us. Besides, we came with reason and fear nothing. In the beginning, everyone was afraid of Bai Yan's identity and did not dare to come forward to settle the score. However, after Zhang Fei Yang's repeated guarantees, they finally stepped into her territory. Now, it was too late to regret. Zhang Fei Yang's expression was ugly, but these people were telling the truth. She didn't even have a chance to refute. Reasonable. Bai Yan's lips curled into a smile. From what I know, it's not without reason that my people went to find trouble with them. If they had not slandered me behind my back, why would Chu Yi find them? Hearing her words, everyone's faces turned red, and they didn't dare to speak. Zhang Fei Yang took a deep breath. I've said everything I need to say. Miss Bai, can I leave now? Looking at Zhang Fei Yang's face that was covered in sweat, Bai Yan suddenly laughed. Is this place a place you can come and go as you please? Then what do you want to do? Since you're here, you want to leave so easily without leaving anything behind. Bai Yan crossed her legs and leaned lazily against the back of the chair. Her beautiful eyes were filled with a smile. Hand over all the items on you. If the treasures you are carrying do not meet my requirements, then let your family members come and redeem you. Zhang Fei Yang's face turned red and his voice trembled. Young Miss Bai, aren't you going too far? Too much. Bai Yan laughed coldly. If I'm not the master of Phoenix House, then wouldn't I be bullied by you all as you please? Hualuo, search. Those who meet the requirements can leave, but those who don't can stay and wait for the ransom. Looking at Hualuo, who was walking toward him, Zhang Fei Yang took 2 steps back and gritted his teeth. Bai Yan, by doing this, aren't you afraid of offending His Highness the Crown Prince? Bai Yan laughed lightly. You, Zhang Fei Yang's finger trembled as he stretched it out and pointed at Bai Yan. Don't forget that His Highness the Emperor's eldest grandson is a person from the 10,000 Beasts clan. Sooner or later, he will be above all living beings. At that time, it will be too late for you to even kneel down and beg for mercy. The corners of Bai Yan's lips curled up. If I did not remember wrongly, that imperial eldest son Qin's strength seemed to have only reached the mid-level human rank. In fact, Nangonglin's talent was not too bad. However, because he did not like to cultivate since he was young and Nangongyi and Bai Ruo doted on him extremely, how could they bear to force him? Therefore, Nangonglin, who became a cultivator when he was 3 years old, was still at the bottom of the hierarchy. Chapter 240. 240. You guys are more troublesome. That Swan Ni is only the eldest imperial grandson whose talent has yet to show. He's a member of the 10,000 Beasts clan and is destined to have an extraordinary fate. You and your son can only look up to him in your lifetime. As soon as Zhang Fei Yang finished speaking, Hua Luo kicked him in the face. Under this kick, his teeth all flew out. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground with his hands covering his face. Bai Yan smiled faintly as she looked at Zhang Fei Yang, who had fallen to the ground. The others can leave after handing over the ransom, but it's useless even if you give the ransom now. Hua Luo, publicize the contents of this thin book later. She had already decided his fate in the midst of her casual conversation. Zhang Fei Yang's heart was trembling. The reason why he had said those words was because he was unwilling to hand over his storage bag. Who asked him to be so suspicious? He couldn't feel at ease no matter where he put his wealth. He could only feel at ease if he kept it with him. However, he did not expect that he would make such a fatal mistake because he wanted to protect his family's wealth. The corner of Hua Luo's lips curved up seductively. She looked at Zhang Fei Yang with a mocking gaze. Her beautiful eyes were full of sarcasm. I wonder if I should go and teach that crown prince a lesson. Bai Yan narrowed her eyes and laughed coldly. No need for now. All these years, Nangongyi had used the 10,000 beasts greeting their ancestors to abuse his power. Since that was the case, she did not mind ruining this man's reputation. After throwing down this last sentence, Bai Yan walked out of the hall. However, she did not walk for long before she stopped. A light breeze blew past, and her black hair fluttered in the wind. Her back was shrouded in the morning light, and for a moment, she actually felt a sense of surrealism. Come out. Not far behind him, 2 young girls timidly walked out. Among the two, one was beautiful and eye-catching, and the other was charming and lovely. 2 different kinds of beauty, but equally shocking. Sister Yan Zhenzhen. Sister-in-law. Chu Yiyi and De Xiaoun spoke at the same time, looking at the back of the stunning figure in front of them with fear. Sister-in-law, De Xiaoun twisted the corner of his clothes and said pitifully, Did I cause you trouble? Her expression was aggrieved, but her heart was filled with resentment. That group of damned humans, they actually dared to cause trouble for sister-in-law. Did he really think that she, the princess of the demon realm, was just a decoration? If her elder brother knew that she was the one who had caused all this trouble, wouldn't he skin her alive? I don't know. Bai Yan raised the corners of her lips. Compared to them, I feel that you guys are more like trouble. De Xiaoun's breathing stagnated. She wanted to refute, but she had to admit that this was the truth. Sister-in-law, I think I heard them talking about the 10,000 beasts greeting their ancestors just now. De Xiaoun's eyes darted around. Can you tell me what's going on? This time, Bai Yan did not say anything. Chu Yiyi, who was at the side, spoke up indignantly. 5 years ago, when Nangongyi's son was born, there was a scene of 10,000 beasts worshipping their ancestors. Those demonic beasts were all worshipping Luhuo Kingdom. After that, a message came from somewhere saying that the 10,000 beasts worshipping their ancestors was the eldest imperial grandson, Nangonglin, who was born that day. Otherwise, with Nangongyi's ability, how could he become the crown prince? Wasn't it all thanks to his son? De Xiaoun's mouth was wide open, and his eyes were full of shock. 10,000 beasts facing their ancestors. Shouldn't it be caused by little Chen Er? When did he become the son of Nangongyi? On that day, she had also seen the scene of all the beasts returning to their ancestors in the demon realm. That was because all the demon beasts in her demon realm were respectfully welcoming the birth of the crown prince. Nangonglin wasn't her brother's son, so how could the beasts worship him? Chapter 241. 241 Chapter 235 It's hard to strike if you're too familiar with him. 1. Chu Yiyi's mind flashed. I remember that Nangonglin and little Chen Er were born on the same day. Since he was young, he had been able to command many demonic beasts. Could it be that Yingying took away little Chen Er's credit? With that, there would be a good show to watch. Sister-in-law, I will never forgive those bastards. How dare they use the name of the demonic beast clan to act like a tyrant? When his elder brother descended to the world, there was also a phenomenon of 10,000 beasts paying homage to their ancestors. Now that the demonic beast sensed the birth of their little nephew, they had to pay their respects to him. What was Nangonglin? He was just an ordinary human. Why did the demon beasts of her demon realm have to welcome his birth? The more Dizayun thought about it, the angrier he got. If Nangongyi's family was in front of her, she would definitely not be able to bear it and would want to strangle her to death. Dizayun, there's one thing I don't understand. Chu Yi frowned. Why did little Chen Er's birth cause all the beasts to pay homage to her? And how do you know? That's because little Chen Er is Yingluo. Just as Dizayun was about to speak, a hand suddenly reached out from the side and firmly covered her mouth. Woo. She struggled twice, but seeing that she could not break free, she could only raise her eyes and look at Bai Yan with a puzzled gaze. Bai Yan Liang glanced at Dizayun in a daze. Don't say things you shouldn't say. Doubt flashed past Dizayun's eyes, not understanding what Bai Yan's words meant. You can't tell anyone about little Chen Er's identity. Bai Yan lowered her head and warned in a voice that only the two of them could hear. Upon hearing this, Dizayun came to a realization and hurriedly nodded. Only then did Bai Yan let go of her hand. Even to Bai Xiao, she had never revealed Bai Xiaoqin's true identity. This wasn't because she didn't trust him, but if this kind of news was known, it might bring them trouble. Ching ching. Bai Yan, are you hiding something from me? Chu Yi pouted and asked in an aggrieved manner. Yi, there are some things Wan can't tell you yet. The corners of Bai Yan's lips curled up into a faint smile. When she looked up, she saw a young man in a snow-white robe walking into the courtyard. She paused and said, Xiao Er, you're back. How's the young man you saved earlier? A few days ago, Bai Su had accidentally exposed the elixir to the Bai family in order to save the young man, which had attracted a group of wolves, tigers, and leopards. According to Bai Su, after she had left without saying goodbye, Bai Su had once gone out to look for him. It was at that time that he made friends with the young man, and he had even saved his life. Sis, he's fine now. A smile appeared on Bai Su's cold face as he turned to Dizayun. This lady is Zhen Zhen. He knew Chu Yi, but he didn't know Dizayun's face, which was why he asked. Dikang's younger sister. Bai Yan raised the corners of her lips. I'd rather you say that I'm little Chen Er's aunt than that. Dizayun's mouth twitched. Chen Er's aunt. A trace of surprise flashed through Bai Su's eyes, but it disappeared in an instant. He smiled and said, Miss Di, my name is Bai Xiao. Bai Yan is my older sister. Dizayun stepped forward with a smile and patted Bai Ling's shoulder. Little Xiao Xiao, you're my sister-in-law's younger brother, so you're also my younger brother. In the future, I'll take care of you, and you'll have no problem doing whatever you want on this continent. Bai Xiao was stunned as he raised his head to look at Bai Yan in shock. Such a passionate young lady, he really could not hold his own. Chapter 242. 242 It's hard to strike if you're too familiar, too. Dizayun. Chu Yi placed her hands on her hips and walked forward with her eyes wide open. I'll take care of Xiao Xiao. She doesn't need you. Xiao Xiao and I are a family. You're just an outsider. Dizayun raised his chin arrogantly and said proudly. You. Chu Yi's face turned red with anger. She pulled Bai Su away from Dizayun and stood in front of him. You're going to scare Xiao Xiao if you're so unruly. Bai Xiao was blocked by Chu Yi and immediately looked at Bai Yan at a loss. He really wanted to know what exactly had happened. Bai Yan's face darkened. Chu Yi, Dizayun. Do you want to get out? This sentence made the two men's faces change greatly, and they immediately took 2 steps back. Dizayun smiled embarrassedly. Sister-in-law, I'm just exchanging feelings with Yi. It's nothing. Don't worry. I agree. Chu Yi nodded quickly and put her hand on Dizayun's shoulder with a smile. Zayun, didn't you ask me to treat you to tea yesterday? Let's go, we'll go now. Then, she grabbed Dizayun's hand and ran out of the courtyard without looking back. Bai Ling was dumbfounded and sighed helplessly. In this world, only Big Sister could make Chu Yi so obedient. Xiao Er, Bai Yan turned to look at Bai Xiao and asked, I haven't checked your strength for a few days. Let's go. I'll go and see if you've grown up recently. A smile appeared on Bai Su's face. It was enough to have her by his side in this life. Time did not pass by too much. Just as Bai Yan was seriously watching Bai Xiao dance with his sword, a familiar aura suddenly came from behind her. Then, her body was instantly pulled into a big hand. Perhaps she was already used to the man's overbearingness. Bai Yan did not struggle this time. She raised her brows and smiled sweetly. You're back. Dikang's voice was low and deep. I came back after receiving your letter. Where's that girl? Tell her to come out and see me. The man's tone did not hide his anger, but it made Bai Yan stand up from the ground with a swoosh. She turned around and pulled Dikang's clothes as she sneered, Have you forgotten what I told you? You want to help her. Dikang narrowed his eyes and a dangerous glint flashed through his eyes. I want to help her. Bai Yan smiled coldly. I want to help her. This was because she could see Bai Su's shadow in Diziaoun. Back then, wasn't Bai Su also waiting for her like this? Dikang lowered his head and looked at the hand that was pulling on his clothes. The corners of his lips raised into a devilish arc. It's not impossible. You help her once, and I'll *ck you once. Seeing this man's unconcealed words, Bai Yan's hand trembled and she almost let go of his lapels. Shameless. She said through gritted teeth. It's enough that I'm shameless to you. Dikang's large hand reached out and pulled Bai Yan into his embrace ruthlessly. He lowered his head and kissed the woman's lips. Ever since Bai Kui saw Dikang's appearance, he had silently left, leaving them some space. Hence, there were only two people kissing in the entire courtyard. Even though one of them was forced to kiss her. Bai Yan, are you poisonous? Dikang released the woman's lips and his hoarse voice was low and deep. Ever since I kissed you once, I've been mesmerized by your lips. Chapter 243. 243 It's hard to strike if you're too familiar. 3. His slender fingers gently stroked Bai Yan's red lips, the slightly cold temperature at the tip of his fingers causing her body to tremble before a smile appeared on her face. Dikang, don't tell me Yingluo has really fallen in love with me. Had he fallen in love with her? Dikang was silent. For many years, there was no woman by his side, and he had never been moved by love, so he did not understand what love was. However, ever since he had tasted her, she had been on his mind all the time. He had also experienced what it felt like to not see her for a day was like not seeing her for 3 years. However, Dikang was not sure if this proved that he had fallen in love with her. Huan. Seeing Dikang's silent expression, Bai Yan sneered and broke free from his embrace, the corners of her lips curling up into a faint smile. Dikang, if I, Bai Yan, am to marry in this life, I will only marry someone who is in love with me. You don't have me in your heart, so why are you still pestering me? Just because I'm Chen Er's mother. This has nothing to do with Chen Er. I want to marry you only because you are Bai Yan. He married her, regardless of who she was. It was only because she was Bai Yan. Do you think I have to marry you just because you want to? Bai Yan's eyes were filled with smiles. She crossed her arms and stared at the peerless man in purple in front of her with a smile. You can only marry me. If you dare to marry another man, I'll break their legs. The man's voice was as domineering as ever. His eyes were bright and his red lips curved into a cold smile. As for you? Dikang forcefully held Bai Yan's body as his phoenix eyes sank slightly. Although I want to tie you up so that you can't leave for the rest of your life, I can't bear to hurt you in the end. Therefore, I can only work hard to follow behind you. If you find a man, I'll destroy one. If you find a pair, I'll destroy a pair. Let's see who still dares to provoke you. Bai Yan's heart trembled a few times. This damn pervert. When her strength surpassed his, she would then humiliate him ruthlessly. Suddenly, a voice came from the front, instantly pulling Bai Yan's thoughts back. She looked up and saw Diziaoun in a light yellow dress running from the courtyard. Her little face was red, and her eyes were shining with excitement. However, she had only run a few steps when she felt that the atmosphere was not right, and she immediately stopped. In front of her, a purple-robed silver-haired figure came into her sight. The man's face was gloomy as he coldly looked at the young girl who was running around. The coldness in his phoenix eyes caused the temperature in the entire courtyard to drop a little. Diziaoun was stunned. Her face was even uglier than if she had swallowed a fly. Her tongue kept trembling, and she couldn't even speak coherently. Brother Yingluo, why are you here? His smile was so frightening that Bai Yan had never seen it before, causing Diziaoun's legs to tremble in fear. Emperor. Small. Yun. When the man's clenched teeth said these 3 words, Diziaoun's legs went soft and he fell to the ground with a bang. He had obviously suffered a strong shock. Brother, I was wrong. She was so scared that she was about to cry. Why had she not seen her brother for a few years? Why was he becoming more and more terrifying? Do you know what kind of trouble you've caused? Dikang's lips curved sinisterly, because you forcefully passed through the seal and someone else followed you to this mainland. How do you think I should punish you and the state preceptor? Diziaoun's face turned pale. Brother, I made the decision on my own. It has nothing to do with the state preceptor. Don't involve the innocent. Without him, would you have been able to pass the seal? Dikang sneered. I'm sorry. Diziaoun's voice weakened a little, and he lowered his head in grievance. I'll accept your punishment, but I forced the state preceptor. Don't bully him. Chapter 244. 244 It's hard to strike if you're too familiar. 4. It seems that you have a good relationship with the state preceptor. Why don't this prince issue a decree and let the two of you get married? Dikang's voice was chilly. What? Diziaoun jumped up anxiously. He didn't care about his fear of Dikang and immediately refused. I don't want to get married. Brother, you can't throw me to the state preceptor so cruelly. Don't you like him very much? Dikang coldly laughed. I'm too familiar with the state preceptor, so it's not easy to make a move between acquaintances. Do you choose to marry the state preceptor, or do you want me to hang you up and beat you up? Dikang's words were domineering and flamboyant, as if the pitiful little girl in front of Huan was not his biological sister. Gee. Diziaoun's expression was pitiful. Can I not choose either? Dikang sneered. Just as he was about to refuse, a strong wind suddenly came from behind him. His large hand slightly raised and firmly grabbed the leg that was kicking towards him. Don't mess around. He frowned slightly, and his tone had a doting tone that he didn't even notice. Let me deal with this girl. Bai Yan retracted her leg and glared fiercely at the man. Get out. Little Yan you're being mischievous again. The corners of Dikang's lips curled up. I'll mess with you after I'm done with my matters. Diziaoun's eyes were wide open, and he was so shocked that he couldn't say a word. Was this Lao Ai really his bad-tempered and brutal brother? When would he be able to treat someone with such a good temper? I've said it before, if you dare to hit her, you'll get out. Looking at Bai Yan's dark face, Dikang's expression sank. You're serious? Really? It was as if these two words from Bai Yan had made Dikang's expression turn even uglier. Diziaoun was so frightened that he shrunk his neck back, his body feeling cold. Dikang turned his head sullenly, his phoenix eyes sweeping towards Diziaoun, who wished he could hide himself. You can get lost now. Diziaoun raised his head and looked at Dikang's sullen face in astonishment. Was her brother planning to let her go? Still not scramming. Seeing the stunned Diziaoun, Dikang's lips curled up and his voice was slightly cold. These words made Diziaoun feel as if he had been granted amnesty. Without waiting for Dikang to speak again, he fled into the distance with a whoosh, afraid that she would go back on her words and grab her to hang and beat her up. Looking at the place where Diziaoun had left, Bai Yan was in a daze. At this moment, a man's low voice came into her ear. I've never hit her. What? Bai Yan turned her head in puzzlement. Perhaps she did not understand what he meant by this. I was just trying to scare her with my words. Dikang frowned and continued to speak. Bai Yan blinked her eyes. Was this man trying to explain to her? This girl is not only stupid, but also lawless. If I don't teach her, no one can control her. However, this stupid girl was his biological sister. Why are you telling me this? Bai Yan turned her head and asked. I don't want you to think that I'm a cruel and merciless person who doesn't recognize my family. In the past, he had never cared about what others thought of him. So what if he didn't recognize his family? So what if he was cruel? Even if the world misunderstood him, he would not give any explanation. However, in front of Bai Yan, he did not want her to have any misunderstanding. Bai Yan's heart trembled and she subconsciously turned her head away, not looking at the man's beautiful face. I'm sorry. I misunderstood you before. When I found out that you had left home for a few years and she had waited for you alone at home for several years, I mistook her for Xiao Er. If you still want to punish her for this, she will definitely be very sad. Chapter 245. 245 Demonic Beast Sect, 1. Dikang sneered and his phoenix eyes were filled with ridicule. That girl is so cruel. If such a small thing could make her so heartbroken, she would have committed suicide many times. Bai Yan raised her eyes in shock. Diziaoun was really his younger sister. Biological child. At that moment, she couldn't help but feel sympathy for Diziaoun. With an elder brother who didn't care about her, it was no wonder that Diziaoun would be so dispirited. This king is hungry. Just as Bai Yan was feeling extremely sympathetic towards Diziaoun, a man's low voice sounded beside her ear. Her face darkened. Your imperial residence was destroyed, so did all the chefs in the residence die. If you want to eat, get the people of the Wang family to prepare it for you. As if he did not hear Bai Yan's words, Dikang continued on his own. This king heard that Yingluo's cooking skills are the best in the world. Do you choose to let me taste your cooking or eat you up on the spot? Bai Yan took in deep breath. She glared at Dikang and turned to walk into the kitchen. Looking in the direction that Bai Yan had left, a smile hung on Dikang's red lips. His gaze followed Bai Yan's disappearance before he left. In the wing room, the pink muslin curtains fluttered with the wind. Diziaoun was frowning and thinking of a countermeasure to deal with Dikang. However, at this moment, a foot kicked open her door with a bang. Diziaoun was so frightened that she almost rolled off the bed. She looked at the man who appeared at the door in fear and swallowed with difficulty. Ji Yingluo, didn't you promise to let me go? Why was he looking for trouble with her now? Dizayun wanted to cry, but no tears came out. If it wasn't for her tougher heart, she would have been scared to death by this man every day. When you left the demon realm, did you see the snake girl? Lamia. Dizayun raised his head in surprise. You mean the snake clan's Qingluan? When I came out, I was alone. I didn't see her. Could it be that the Luan and Qingluan had followed her to this continent? Dizayun's heart was beating violently. She also knew why her brother was so angry before. Dikang's face was gloomy and a cold aura surrounded his body, making Dizayun's teeth tremble. When do you plan to leave? His lips curled into a cold arc as he asked expressionlessly. Against the man's terrifying aura, Dizayun's voice was trembling. I'm not leaving. It's not easy for me to see my nephew and sister-in-law. I don't want to leave. Dikang's phoenix eyes narrowed slightly and the arc of his lips carried a dangerous aura. If you don't want to get lost, then you have to promise me two things. What's the matter? Yan is still unwilling to marry this prince. Help this prince convince her. Dizayun, who was still trembling, suddenly heard the voice coming from above. He immediately raised his head, his eyes full of astonishment. Could it be, as Chu Yi had said, that brother had yet to settle sister-in-law? And now, Ran was asking her for help. Dikang's tone was obviously an order, but Dizayun imagined it to be a request. At the thought that Dikang had something to ask of her, she was no longer as submissive as before and her beautiful little face was full of pride. Brother, it's not impossible for me to help you pursue sister-in-law, but since you're asking someone for help, shouldn't you at least give me something in return? Her eyes glowed and her lips curved into a proud smile. Dikang's eyes turned cold and he coldly raised the corner of his lips. Then what do you want to do? Chapter 246. 246 Demonic Beast Sect, 2. This Pixiu. Dizayun's eyes rolled as he said with a smile, no matter what happens to me in the future, you can't scold me, and you're not allowed to randomly match a couple. In addition, you must let Chen sleep with me for 29 days a month. In addition, you have to promote the Imperial Advisor's rank when you go back. You're not allowed to be Pixiu. Dikang's smile became even colder. The position of Imperial Preceptor is second only to the royal family in the demon realm. If there's another official promotion, it will only be the position of Prince Consort. Dizayun was stunned. Is that so? My second rule is that you can't randomly match the couple. Brother, you can't let the state preceptor be the prince consort. Isn't this your request? What the f***ck? Dizayun's face turned pale. I forgot the state preceptor's position in the demon realm. I just wanted to help him get some benefits. Dikang slowly approached Dizayun. His monstrous aura pressed down heavily, making Dizayun's expression, which had finally recovered, become even more frightened. Brother, what are you doing? A gentleman uses his mouth and not his fists. You can scold me, but you are not allowed to hit me. Her body trembled as she retreated. Her pale face was filled with fear, and she bit her lips tightly with tears in her eyes. If you have any other requests, just say it. I'm Yingluo. No matter how stupid Dizayun was, she knew that Dikang was angry. She was so scared that she couldn't even speak properly, her voice trembling badly. You're not going to say any more. Dikang coldly laughed. Dizayun made up his mind and said, don't think that I can lie to you just because I'm stupid. I have my sister-in-law's support now. If you drive me away, she will definitely drive you out first. At that time, I won't help you pursue my sister-in-law and you will never be able to have a beauty in your life. That's right, she had her sister-in-law's support. What was she afraid of? Thinking of this, Dizayun raised his chest and looked straight at Dikang's gloomy face without fear. However, Dikang's next words caused Dizayun's expression to change greatly. If Yan is not this prince's wife, then she is not your sister-in-law, and Chen is not your nephew. These words were like a bolt of lightning, striking Dizayun silly. How could she forget this? If sister-in-law did not marry her brother, how could she be her sister-in-law? With sister-in-law's personality, she would not allow Chen to return to the demon world with them. No. This won't do. Brother, I'll help you. Dizayun suddenly became energetic. She patted her chest and vowed, I'll definitely keep an eye on sister-in-law and not let her come into contact with other men until she marries you. The second thing I want you to do is to leave Yan and Chen safety in your hands when I'm not around. Dikang nodded his head expressionlessly. Hee. Dizayun was stunned when he heard this. He said weakly, brother, I don't know why, but after coming to this continent, I feel that my strength has been reduced by half. Aren't you forcing me to protect such a powerful sister-in-law? She had broken through the seal to come to this continent, which had resulted in her strength being sealed. Now, it was easy for her to protect Chen Sister-in-law was so powerful, so why would she need her protection? After Snake Girl came to this continent, She used some special method to hide her aura. Even Flame Feather can't track her whereabouts, but if she gets close, you'll be able to detect her. Dikang coldly glanced at Dizayaun. This king wants you to follow Yan Er closely from now on. Brother, don't worry. I'll go wherever sister-in-law goes. Chapter 247. 247 Demonic Beast Sect, 3. Dizayaun was on full alert. That bitch Qingluan had been spying on her brother for hundreds of years. If she knew Chen Er's whereabouts, she might plot against him. She only had one sister-in-law and one nephew. How could she let them be plotted against? Remember your words. If Yan Er and her son are hurt in the slightest, this king will first settle the score with you. The man sneered as he left these last words. Without looking at Dizayaun again, he turned around and left the room. Dizayaun was dumbfounded. Was she really his sister? Not picked up. Perhaps it was because he had been used to Dikang's treatment over the years. Dizayaun did not even have the time to feel aggrieved and had already consoled himself in his heart. So what if her brother was not in pain? In the future, she would have sister-in-law to dote on her. Who would still care about him? Your Highness, Your Highness. At this moment, a crisp voice was heard. Dizayaun turned around and saw an oriole flying in from the window and landing on her shoulder. Ah Huang, how's the matter? I asked you to investigate. Your Highness, can you change my name? She's a girl. After all, Huang Ying's tone was filled with dissatisfaction as she protested. Giving you a name is too troublesome. This princess is such a lazy person, and you still want this princess to think of a stupid name for you. Dizayaun's beautiful big eyes were wide open. Ah Huang, what's your intention? Ah Huang was stunned, its eyes full of grievance. It just wanted a nice name. Why did it become that it wanted to murder the princess in the princess heart? This Tao Wu was too wronged. First, tell me what I want you to do. Dizayaun pouted and asked. Your Highness, it's best if you don't listen. I'm afraid you'll die of anger. Anger me to death. Dizayaun laughed disdainfully. Even my brother couldn't anger me to death. Could there be anything else that can anger me to death? Hurry up and tell me what you found out. Ah Huang looked at Dizayaun and said, just now, I sneaked into the crown prince's residence and happened to eavesdrop on the conversation between that bullshit crown prince and crown princess. That woman called Bairuo was actually plotting with Nangongyi to make the queen his concubine. You even said Yingluo. What else did you say? Dizayaun's heart was already fluctuating. She gritted her teeth and asked. He also said that the little prince of our demon realm is only good-looking and is inferior to his son in all other aspects. After the queen becomes his concubine, he will make the little prince his son's slave. Oh, that's right. Nangongyi also said that the queen's mother was a foolish woman. She couldn't stand her father's sweet talk and handed over all the pills. As the daughter of that foolish woman, as long as he says a few good words in the future, the queen will also hand over the power in her hands with both hands. In the beginning, Dizayaun had asked Ah Huang to find out about Nangonglin, who had impersonated himself to lead the 10,000 beasts to the imperial court. Who knew that Ah Huang would hear such useless news? Her face immediately turned red with anger. Of course, she was not angry at Ah Huang, but at the two shameless scoundrels. Seeing that Dizayaun was so angry that he could not breathe, Ah Huang became anxious. I told you that you would die of anger, but you didn't believe me. Why bother listening to such a scoundrel's words? Dizayaun was indeed furious. She finally came back to her senses and glared at Ah Huang. Then why did you come back? Before Ah Huang could finish his sentence, tragedy struck. Chapter 248. 248 Demonic Beast Sect, 3. Dizayaun smacked Ah Huang's small body away as if he was smacking a fly. With a bang, its body hit the door and slowly fell down. Zhen, I came back to tell you. Ah Huang's voice was very weak. I have already found out that the matter of the 10,000 beasts greeting their ancestors, Zhen, was deliberately spread by Bairuo. After saying this, Ah Huang's eyes rolled back and he fainted. This time, Ah Huang was lucky to have heard the conversation between Bairuo and her trusted servant girl. Otherwise, it would not have returned so quickly. Ah Huang. Dizayaun pounced on Ah Huang like he was flying. He held up Ah Huang's small body and said while sobbing, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. Don't die. I won't call you Ah Huang anymore, Xiao Huang. Fortunately, Ah Huang had fainted. If it was awake, it would have been affected by the breath of life. Was there a difference between the two names? Princess Qian, Ah Huang slowly woke up when he heard Dizayaun's cries. He said pitifully, my Yingluo isn't dead yet, I'm just hungry Yingluo. Dizayaun was stunned. She stood up and threw Ah Huang on the ground. So he didn't die? You're wasting my feelings. Ah Huang stretched out his trembling little paws and almost cried out of grievance. Princess, I'm hungry. If you're hungry, go look for food. Don't come looking for me. After saying this, Diziaoun walked out of the room, not caring about Huang, who was so hungry that it couldn't fly. Huang shed tears of regret. It shouldn't have followed the princess to this continent. If it wanted the demon world, even if the princess forgot about her, at least there would be palace maids to feed it Qian. Unlike now, it could only lie on the ground alone. To the south of the mainland was a place where demonic beasts roamed freely. Even though the powerful demonic beasts had been sealed in another space thousands of years ago, the demonic beasts that were left behind would eventually grow stronger. Therefore, the demonic beast mountain in the south of the mainland was a place that countless beast tamers wanted to conquer. Not far away from the mountain of demonic beasts was where the demonic beast sect was located. Since the mainland had a place like the medicine sect that gathered all the alchemists in the world, there was naturally a demon beast sect that relied on beast taming. It was a pity that the demonic beast sect had yet to be classified as a hidden sect and was still struggling among the mid-tier sections. At that moment, within the demonic beast sect, a middle-aged man who was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed suddenly opened his eyes. His face was stern and cold, and a light flashed in his eyes. Men, have the first elder come to see the sect master immediately. Someone outside the door accepted the order and retreated. After a while, a sage-like old man rushed in. When he walked in front of the middle-aged man, he bowed respectfully and said, "Sect master, did you call me here because you've already noticed the phenomenon?" A strange phenomenon descended from the heavens, and all the beasts were greeting their ancestors. The demonic beast sect, which was located at the foot of the mountain of demonic beasts, had a clearer sense of this phenomenon than anyone else. That's right. Fan Yufeng's lips curled into a smile. After 5 years, I finally reached the 5th level of my heaven form technique. I was even able to find his location through this cultivation technique. The great elder's heart trembled as he raised his head in surprise. Sect master, is what you said true? Fan Yufeng nodded his head. It's because the level of my cultivation technique isn't too high. I'm unable to obtain any accurate information. I only know that he's in Luhuo Kingdom. Luhuo Kingdom. Chapter 249. 249 Rolling together in the middle of a fight. The head elder was startled and his brows furrowed slightly. 5 years ago, after the 10,000 beasts had saluted their ancestors, there was a rumor in Luhuo Kingdom. It was said that the birth of the current crown prince's son caused this phenomenon. Could it be that the rumor about Lao Ai is true? Fan Yufeng shook his head. I'm not sure if it's him or not. When the time comes, bring the horned dragon with you. Whoever can tame the horned dragon will be the person who will be part of the 10,000 beasts greeting the ancestors. The great elder was startled. He said hesitantly, Sect leader, the glass dragon is the treasure of our demon beast sect. It was left behind by the old ancestor and is the only dragon on this mainland. If Qian lets it escape, it will be difficult to end the situation. In fact, it was not that the demonic beast sect had not thought of taming the glass dragon, but the glass dragon was fierce and disobedient. If it was released, the whole world would be in a bloody storm. How can I not know? Fan Yufeng laughed bitterly. The only one who can find him now is the glass dragon. Great elder, bring the beast cage with you. Before you find him, remember not to let the glass dragon escape. Yes, Sect master. The first elder cupped his hands respectfully. Also, do you know the other meaning behind me asking you to use the glass dragon? Fan Yufeng's lips curled up slightly. The great ancestor once left behind an ancestral teaching. If we meet someone who can tame the glass dragon in the future, our demonic beast sect must submit to him. For hundreds of years, the demon beast sect leaders have been waiting for him. Unfortunately, their waiting has come to nothing. His brows were gradually filled with pride. I didn't expect that I'd be able to wait for it. Even if he were to die in the future, he would still have the face to face his ancestors. This is the first time the great elder heard of this. He was shocked. Is this true? Of course. Fan Yufeng chuckled. Why else do you think I'm working so hard on the heaven form technique? Wasn't it just to find him? Ever since the 10,000 beasts greeting the clan incident, I knew that the person our demon beast sect has been waiting for has finally arrived. First elder took a deep breath to suppress the shock in his heart and said, Sect master, I understand. I will bring people to Luhuo Kingdom and bring him back. All right. Fan Yufeng nodded lightly. After we confirm his identity, it's fine if you don't come back. Everything will be done according to his needs, understand? The ancestral teachings could not be violated. Even if Fan Yufeng didn't know who the 10,000 beasts greeting the clan was, he still had to carry out the ancestral teachings. Yes, Sect master. The great elder smiled and retreated. After he had left, Fan Yufeng let out a sigh. I hope that this time, the great elder will be able to find the person successfully. Our mystical beast sect's Bayan no longer has the time to continue waiting. The Imperial City. Inside the house, Bai Yan's footsteps paused. She raised her eyes in surprise and her gaze landed on the cluster of flowers in the backyard. Hundreds of flowers competed for beauty, but they could not compare to the two most gorgeous colors. Her water blue dress trailed on the ground, making Diziaoun's beautiful and tender face look even more pink. She was holding a pot of wine in her hand, and she raised her head to drink it. The wine flowed down along the corner of her lovely mouth, bright and beautiful like the spring Sunday. Burp, Diziaoun burped and laughed. Chu Yi, the wine on your continent is really delicious, especially the flower wine you gave me. It's the most delicious wine I've ever had. Chu Yi's cheeks were flushed red as she hugged the wine jar with both hands. She smiled coyly, you're speaking as if you're not from this continent. Chapter 250. 250 Rolling together after a fight, 2. I'm not from here to begin with. It was the state preceptor who helped me leave. State preceptor? Who is it? Chu Yi's eyes were hazy and her vision was dark. She lay on her back in the flowers and placed the back of her hand on her forehead. She was wearing a peach-red Confucian dress, which was in full bloom with the flowers. State Preceptor Qian. Diziaoun opened his eyes, and a gentle and handsome face seemed to appear in front of his eyes. He slightly raised the corners of his lips, he's a very gentle man. No matter how I bully him, he won't be angry, Qian. Oh, so the State Preceptor is your lover. Chu Yi laughed. Her smile was beautiful, and the corners of her mouth curved up. She turned around and faced Diziaoun. Don't accuse me. There's nothing between the State Preceptor and me. But you, I feel that you're very close to Xiao Xiao. Diziaoun, I let you drink with me, and you dare to slander me. He is Bai Yan's younger brother, so I must definitely treat him well. You're different. That State Preceptor must be your lover. Originally, the atmosphere between the two of them was quite harmonious. Who knew that after Chu Yi's words, Diziaoun would pounce on her and start fighting with her. It was fine if they fought, but as they fought, they hugged each other and rolled into a ball. Her body was covered with the fragrance of flowers. Under the brilliant sunlight, she was even more beautiful than the flowers under her. Master, do you want to stop them? The corner of Hualuo's mouth twitched. These two people often fought when they didn't agree with each other, and now they were even so bold as to commit a crime while drunk. Weren't they afraid that their master and his highness would find trouble with them? No need. Out of Hualuo's expectations, Bai Yan raised her lips and smiled slightly. This time, they're just exchanging feelings. We don't have to stop them. Hualuo, tell your men not to disturb them later. After saying this, she slowly walked past the two people and gradually walked out of the courtyard. Bai Yan had just walked out of the main door when a figure suddenly flew out from the Wang family next door and landed on the ground in a sorry state with a bang. Wang Deqiu strode out and looked at the people who had fallen in front of him. His eyes were filled with disdain. I, Wang Deqiu, am not so down and out that I would sell my daughter. Get lost. Selling his daughter. Bai Yan stopped in her tracks and turned her head in surprise to look at Wang Deqiu, whose face was filled with anger. Then, she looked at the eunuch who had fallen to the ground and could not get up. The corners of her lips curled up with interest, a faint smile in her eyes. You. The eunuch got up from the ground in anger and said angrily, our eldest imperial grandson has taken a fancy to your daughter. He's giving you face by asking your daughter to be his concubine. Moreover, the crown princess even offered a second-grade pill as a betrothal gift. Don't be ungrateful. Ha ha ha. Wang Deqiu was so angry that he laughed. You want me to sell my daughter for a mere second-grade pill? I'm telling you, I, Wang Deqiu, am not so weak that I have to sell my daughter to make a living. Get lost immediately. The eunuch was so angry that his entire body was trembling. Our imperial grandson is going to rule the world in the future. You could have used him to become a powerful cultivator, but you gave up such a good opportunity. Don't come looking for me if you regret it. He snorted coldly and turned to leave. However, he had only taken a few steps when Wang Deqiu picked up a stone and threw it forward with a whoosh. The eunuch did not know what had happened. He only felt a pain in the back of his head and his eyes went black. Then, his body suddenly fell to the ground and he lost consciousness. Chapter 251. 251 Rolling together in the middle of a fight 3. What's this, to rule the world? My daughter is a year younger than the imperial grandson, but she's stronger than him. How can a piece of trash like her become an important figure who can rule the world? Wang Deqiu spat on the ground and was just about to turn around to leave. However, the moment he turned around, he saw Bai Yan standing at the door next door. Miss Bai, I've embarrassed myself in front of you. Wang Deqiu smiled and said embarrassedly. It's nothing. I was just passing by and saw a good show. Bai Yan's lips curled up into a faint smile. I'm almost done preparing the medicinal pills you wanted. Come to my residence to take them 2 days later. Wang Deqiu's eyes brightened at the mention of pills, and the smile on his face widened. All right, 2 days later, I will definitely go and retrieve the pills as promised at that time. I will also pay you the money needed to purchase the pills. Bai Yan smiled and no longer said anything as she turned around and left. Bai Ruo and Nangongyi sat in the pavilion and watched Nangonglin practice martial arts below. The sword in Nangonglin's hand was extremely short, only a little longer than the dagger. Even so, he was already panting and sweating in less than a minute. Father, mother, I'm so tired. Can I stop practicing martial arts? Bai Ruo smiled and beckoned to little tyrant. When he was right in front of her, she took out a handkerchief and wiped his sweat. Her eyes were filled with heartache. Lin Er, if you're tired, then have a good rest. It's fine even if you don't practice martial arts. In any case, this Jian will be yours in the future. The little tyrant was the one who suggested to practice martial arts. Previously, he had been beaten up by Wang Little Fatty. Furthermore, he could not even tame a wild beast. This was a huge blow to Wang Little Fatty's heart. For this reason, it was rare for him to want to work hard in his cultivation. The weapons that Nangongyi had prepared for him were either too heavy or too long. After he finally found a short and light dagger, he practiced for half a quarter of an hour before he felt tired. However, in the eyes of Bai Ruo and Nangongyi, he was still their pride. Lin Er, father has already asked someone to prepare some snacks for you. You should go and rest. The corners of Nangongyi's lips curled up into a satisfied smile. Ruo, I should thank you for giving birth to such an outstanding son for me. Bai Ruo's face turned red as she rebuked, Crown Prince, what are you saying? Lin Er already has great ambitions at such a young age, unlike that bastard Bai Xiaochen, who only plays outside and causes trouble all day long, never knowing how to work hard. Compared to my son, even 10 of him can't compare. Every time Bai Xiaochen was mentioned, Nangongyi's eyes would be filled with anger, wishing he could tear that bastard into 1,000 pieces. Crown Prince, Bai Xiaochen is still a child. Isn't it not too good to say that about him, Wan? A smile rose on Bai Ruo's face. She hid the hatred in her eyes very well and said weakly, besides, Lin Er has caused quite a lot of trouble before. Lin Er is a person of the 10,000 beasts greeting the ancestors. No matter what he does, he is not wrong. On the contrary, he shows his overbearing aura. A cold glint flashed across Nangongyi's eyes as he continued, on the contrary, isn't Bai Xiaochen relying on Phoenix House to dare to act tyrannically? By the time I take Bai Yan in as my concubine, what else can he use to bully Lin Er? A person without any background dares to be so pretentious, isn't he afraid of dying without a burial ground? As expected, only a mother could produce a son like that. Bai Yan was a vicious and merciless woman, and Bai Xiaochen was no different. Chapter 252. 252 Self-Righteous, 1. Lin Er was so pitiful, yet he could still be so cruel as to let others bully him. Before that, he had almost burned Lin Er alive. At this moment, Nangongyi had clearly forgotten that it was Nangonglin who first set fire to Nangong Sun and Bai Xiaochen was only taking revenge for Nangong Sunday. However, even if he remembered this matter, he would definitely not think much of it. In his opinion, as the master of all beasts, Nangonglin's actions were not wrong. It was only right for him to kill. At this moment, a eunuch hurried over. When she saw the eunuch's sorry state, Bai Ruo was slightly startled. Eunuch Lin, what happened? Your Highness, the eunuch complained, that person from the Wang clan is too much. I asked him nicely to give my daughter to the eldest imperial grandson, but not only did he refuse, he even kicked me out of the door. The injury on the back of this servant's head was caused by him. Nangongyi's expression sank and he turned to Bai Ruo. Ruo, what's going on? The corner of Bai Ruo's mouth stiffened. She helplessly sighed. Lin Er took a fancy to a little girl and intended to take her in as a concubine. Ruo then sent someone to intercede and even offered her a pill. Nangongyi frowned. Lin Er is only 5 years old. How can he sleep with a woman? Crown Prince, Ruo only let that girl enter the palace first when the Crown Prince is of age, he will let them share a room. Who knew that Zhen? Bai Ruo bit her lips. Could it be that Lin Er is not outstanding enough, that's why he rejected? As soon as these words fell, Nangongyi's expression, which was already black, became even uglier. This prince's son not only has a noble status, but his future is also extraordinary. How could he refuse? He laughed coldly. Ruo, I'll go to the palace and ask father for an imperial edict to personally send your daughter to the crown prince's residence. Bai Ruo's eyes drooped slightly as the corners of her lips curved into a faint arc. Crown Prince, this seems to be suspicious of kidnapping a woman. Forcefully snatching a woman is the act of a bandit. This prince is a relative of the royal family. Even if I ask for imperial father's imperial edict, it is still a proper method. Ruo, Wait for me. I'll go find Imperial Father now. Of course, he didn't dare to do something like forcefully snatching a commoner's girl, for fear that such an action would damage the imperial family's reputation. He was also forcing others to be concubines, but if he had an imperial edict, no one would accuse him of kidnapping women. Bai Ruo's heart was filled with joy. After Nangongyi left, she pulled little tyrant to sit down and quietly waited for the arrival of the good news. However, it was not long before Nangongyi's muscular body appeared before her eyes again. Crown Prince, did you get the imperial edict? She asked, standing up hurriedly. No. Nangongyi shook his head. Ruoer, guess what news I heard when I went to look for father just now. Hearing this, Bai Ruo was stunned and looked at Nangongyi's happy face in confusion. Crown Prince, what happened? Nangongyi curled the corner of his lips. I heard father talking to the general. He said that he had received a letter from the demonic beast sect. They claimed that the demonic beast sect would come to our Luhuo kingdom in a few days. The demonic beast sect was more than a few times more powerful than the imperial family and Phoenix House. Why would they suddenly come to visit? Ruoer, Nangongyi's lips curved up proudly, the demon beast sect came here for Lin Er. Bai Ruo raised her beautiful eyes in astonishment. Crown Prince, what do you mean? When did Lin Er have any relationship with the demonic beast sect? Chapter 253. 253 Chapter 244 Self-righteous, 2. I only faintly heard a few words. Nangongyi's eyes were filled with excitement. Father told the general that the demonic beast sect came here to find the person from the 10,000 beasts greeting the ancestors. Doesn't this prove that his purpose in coming here is for Lin Er? Bai Ruo's heart was filled with ecstasy. She really didn't dare to believe that the pleasant surprise came so quickly. The people of the demonic beast sect have already confirmed that Lin Er is a member of the 10,000 beasts greeting the sect. Nangongyi's face was filled with pride. In my Luhuo kingdom, other than Lin Er, who else would have this ability? Moreover, it's well known that the day of Lin Er's birth caused the 10,000 beasts to pay homage to the sect. The people of the demonic beast sect would not be so stupid as to not know about this. Hearing these words, Bai Ruo's heart still felt somewhat uneasy. 5 years ago, this matter had already been known to the world. Why did the demonic beast sect only come to visit today? Moreover, she was the one who had deliberately publicized the incident back then. Crown Prince, I understand. I'll let Lin Er make the necessary preparations to welcome the people from the demonic beast sect. Bai Ruo's lips had a light and soft arc, her voice extremely soft. No matter what, she would not allow anyone to destroy Lin Er's past path. She must eliminate anyone who destroyed Lin Er's path. The first one was her confidant who knew what she had done. Mother, Nangonglin raised his chubby face and asked, what is the demonic beast sect? Is it very powerful? Bai Ruo recovered from her thoughts and raised the corner of her lips. Of course. How about Phoenix House? The demonic beast sect is definitely more powerful. Bai Ruo patted little tyrant's head to comfort him, a gentle smile on her face. Moreover, now that the demonic beast sect knows that you're the lord of all beasts, they'll definitely accept you into the sect. When that time comes, you'll definitely become the disciple of the demonic beast sect master. As long as you don't provoke those monsters from the hidden sects for the time being, you can do whatever you want in this world. The eyes of the little tyrant lit up. Then, can I bully Bai Xiaochen? With the demonic beast sect's protection, if you ask Bai Xiaochen to lie down, he won't dare to stand. If you ask him to kneel, he definitely won't dare to sit. So what if this bastard had the Azure Emperor's protection? Demonic beast sect's strength was not bad, they might not lose to Dickhang. Imperial Mother, I want to be the disciple of the demonic beast sect master. The little tyrant jumped up excitedly. Let's see how that Bai Xiaochen will still let others bully me. Bai Ruo's smile became even gentler. It was as if she could see the scene of Bai Yan kneeling in front of her and begging for mercy. The corners of her lips gently lifted into an arc. Crown Prince, I'm going back to the Bai family. Nangongyi frowned, what are you going back to the Bai family for? I don't want you to be led astray. However, if I don't go back, I'm afraid my mother will be beaten to death. Bai Ruo put away her smile and looked pitifully at Nangongyi. Moreover, my parents are all right in the world. No matter how many mistakes they made, they are still my parents. Seeing Bai Ruo's tearful appearance, Nangongyi's heart softened. You can go back, but you must return within 2 hours. His Ruoer was always so kind. How could he bear to let her be an unfilial person? Thank you, Crown Prince. Bai Ruo bent down and smiled, her beautiful eyes containing a gentle light. Don't worry, Crown Prince. Ruoer's heart will never change, I won't do anything that will bring shame to the imperial family. With Bai Ruo's assurance, Nangongyi's expression eased. Come back quickly. Yes, Crown Prince. Since that day, the entire Bai family seemed to be covered by a layer of dark clouds. Chapter 254. 254 Chapter 245 Self-Righteous, 3. When Bai Ruo stepped through the Bai family's door, she was unable to recognize that this dirty and messy courtyard was the place she grew up in. She furrowed her brows slightly, and there was a look of disdain in her eyes. She carefully sold it from the garbage dump and walked towards the backyard. From a distance, Bai Ruo heard the sound of a ghost wailing and a wolf howling from the front. Accompanied by the man's angry roar, the sound of crying became more and more miserable. Her face darkened and she quickly walked in the direction of the room. Inside the wing room, Bai Zhengxiang's face was cold. He held a long stick in his hand and dropped it down like a gust of wind, heavily landing on Yurong's spine. Yurong knelt on the ground. Her pale and swollen face was filled with tears. Her lower abdomen was still protruding, but she understood that the life she had been looking forward to for a long time was no longer in her stomach. "Father, stop hitting me." Bai Ji cried and knelt on the ground. "Please, I beg you. Stop hitting my mother. You will beat her to death one day." "You shut up." Bai Zhenxiang slapped Bai Ji's face and said angrily, "I'm not sure if you're my daughter yet, and you still dare to speak for this B***tch? Tell me honestly, whose child is it in your stomach?" Yurong's head was lowered, and her face was filled with misery. Her body trembled endlessly, as if she would collapse at any moment. "Enough." Old Madame Yu pushed the door open and entered. When she saw Yurong's trembling body, her old face darkened. "Do you really want to beat Rong Er to death? Just because of a few words from Bai Yan, you don't even believe your wife who's beside you." Bai Zhengxiang's cold eyes swept towards old Madame Yu. "And, I didn't hit you out of respect for you. I don't believe that you don't know that this B***tch is pregnant with a bastard child." Old Madame Yu held her breath. For many years, Bai Zhenxiang had been extremely respectful towards her and had not called her aunt for a long time. But now, this unfamiliar way of addressing her made old Madame Yu a little flustered. "Zhenxiang, I guarantee that Rong Er is your child. It's impossible for her to be a bastard." "Is that so?" Bai Zhenxiang sneered. If it was in the past, she would definitely believe in Yurong and her daughter without a doubt. But so many things had happened, how could he still believe her? "Zhenxiang, have you forgotten? Ruoer is the crown prince's consort and Lin Er will also have his ascension ceremony in the future. Aren't you afraid that Ruoer will hate you for treating Rong Er like this?" Old Madame Yu saw that Yu Zhenxiang did not want to eat the diesel and subconsciously brought up Bai Ruo, gritting her teeth and threatening. Bai Zhenxiang glanced at old Madame Yu and said in a cold voice, "I'm just afraid that Jianqian Ruoer and Lin Er won't be able to live to that time." Just as he finished speaking, the closed door was forcefully pushed open again. Bai Ruo stood at the door in a light blue scholar's dress. "Who said that he and my Lin Er won't live to see that day?" Seeing Bai Ruo's appearance, Bai Zhenxiang frowned. "Why did you come back? If I don't come back soon, my mother will be beaten to death by you." Bai Ruo coldly curled her lips. As soon as she finished speaking, she quickly walked over and arrived in front of Yurong in a few steps. She helped her up. "Mother, are you all right?" Yurong looked at the gentle and beautiful face in front of her, her tears flowing down like a river. Her lips trembled. "Ruoer, you're finally back. One more day and you won't be able to see your mother anymore." "Mother, I came back this time to help you." Bai Ruo handed over Yurong, who was crying so hard that she was almost out of breath, to Bai Ji before looking at Bai Zhenxiang. "You just said that Lin Er and I would not live to that day. Is it because of Bai Yan?" Bai Zhenxiang sneered. "Bai Yan has such hatred towards our Bai family. Would she let us off?" Chapter 255. 255 Bai Zhenxiang, who was pleased with himself. If it was not for the actions of Yurong, this B***tch, Bai Yan would not have been so bitterly disappointed in the Bai family. At that time, he might be able to use his father's name to make Phoenix House respect him. The moment he thought about how he had missed out on such a powerful Phoenix House, Bai Zhengxiang's heart started to throb in pain, and his expression became even uglier. Bai Ruo laughed. "What ability does she have to not let me off? Just by relying on Dikang and Phoenix Tower? Unfortunately, it wouldn't be long before Dikang would submit to Lin Er. The Phoenix House was also destroyed. What ability does Bai Yan still have to clamor at me?" There were also strong and weak mid-tier sects, and the Mystical Beast sect was one of the best. If Lin Er became a disciple of the Mystical Beast sect master, who in the world could compete with him? As for the three hidden sects, they were not in Bai Ruo's plans. Even if they were a secluded sect, they would live in seclusion in the mountains and forests, so why would they compete with Lin Er for the position of the world's overlord? "What?" Bai Zhenxiang was stunned. "Are you serious?" "Father, do you know about the demonic beast sect, A vicious glint flashed across Byruo's eyes. Just now, the Crown Prince received a letter saying that the people of the demonic beast sect are very interested in Lin Er. They are already rushing to Luhuo Kingdom this time. Lin Er has entered the demonic beast sect and will definitely become the sect master's disciple. The purpose of the demonic beast sect was to have all the beasts pay their respects to their sect. However, in Byruo's words, it seemed like they had come for Nangong Linear. Even Nangong Lin becoming the sect master's disciple was a sure thing. Elder sister, has the demonic beast sect really taken a fancy to Lin Er? Baiji stood up excitedly, her eyes shining. Under Baiji's expectant gaze, Byruo nodded her head. Lin Er is the lord of all beasts, so it's not surprising that he's attracted the demonic beast section. In that case, will Dikang be able to abandon Bai Yan and take me as his wife? Even now, Baiji still could not dispel the thought of marrying Dikang. Byruo couldn't help but laugh. Ger, you should prepare to be your bride. Dikang's strength is not bad. Even if he's not a match for the demonic beast sect, our Bai family must rope him in. Let him protect Lin Er in the future. As for the Phoenix House, it's too much of a pity to destroy it. Byruo raised the corners of her lips. Mother, you should also be prepared to accept the Phoenix House. In the future, everything that Bai Yan has will be ours. Yurong was stunned. She didn't dare to believe what she had just heard, and her eyes were filled with dullness. Ruo Er, am I really going to become the owner of Phoenix House? Not long ago, they had tried their best to curry favor with the subordinate of Phoenix House. However, the entire Phoenix House would soon be hers. This surprise came too suddenly, causing Yurong's already dark eyes to instantly light up, her entire pair of eyes containing brilliance. What is the Phoenix House? In the future, I'll give you an even greater Zurong, but the condition is that you're not allowed to betray me. How could such a selfish person like Byruo really care about family? All she needed was a shield that would never betray her. If Bai Zhenxiang and Yurong were to block her and Lin Er's path, she could similarly be ruthless and eradicate them. After saying these words of warning, Byruo once again turned to Bai Zhenxiang. Father, I believe that mother will definitely not betray you. Bai Yan's ability is so strong now. Even if we do the blood test, she will definitely do something. I don't wish for you to beat her again because of this. Bai Zhenxiang was silent for a moment before he said, all right, I won't hit her again. Hearing Bai Zhenxiang's guarantee, Byruo smiled slightly. The Crown Prince can't leave me at all times. Now, he only allows me to come out for 2 hours, so I should leave. I'll come and see you next time. Nangongyi was clearly unwilling for Byruo to have more contact with the Bai family, but from her words, it became that he did not want to leave her at all times. Chapter 256. 256 The Complacent Bai Zhenxiang, 2. Watching Byruo leave with the palace maids, old Madame Yu's face revealed a satisfied smile. It's still my granddaughter who is capable. Not only are men completely under her control, even this ability is not something Bai Yan can compare to. Isn't that so? Yurong endured the pain and forced a smile. It's not just Ruo Er, Lin Er's abilities are extremely strong as well. Even such a powerful demonic beast sect has taken a fancy to him. If he becomes the disciple of the demonic beast sect master, his future achievements will be something that Bai Xiaochen, that little bastard, will never be able to catch up to in his entire life. In the past few days, the people of the imperial city had all noticed the strangeness of the Bai family. Previously, Bai Zhenxiang had been humiliated by Bai Yan in public, and under the suppression of Dikang and Phoenix Tower, he did not even dare to show his head, hiding in the Bai family all day like a turtle. Those who had a good relationship with the Bai family in the past drew a clear line with them. Even the servants and guards who had not signed the indenture contract ran away. The Bai family, which was once powerful, had collapsed in a day. But now, hoo-hoo. Looking at Bai Zhenxiang, who was flushed with success on the main street, everyone could not believe their own eyes. Could it be that the Bai family of Suanji was going to rise again? At the thought of this, everyone drew in a cold breath one after another. The gazes they used to look at Bai Zhenxiang with no longer dared to be as contemptuous as before. The mansion. In the courtyard where the sun shone, Bai Yan held a book in her hand. Occasionally, she would glance at Bai Xiaochen, who was playing around with Diziaoun, and a faint smile would appear on her beautiful face. At this moment, Hualuo hurriedly came in from outside the courtyard and stood respectfully in front of Bai Yan. Master. What happened? Bai Yan's brows furrowed slightly as she asked indifferently. I saw Bai Zhenxiang on the road earlier. He seemed to be a little different. Bai Yan raised her brows. Tell me. What's different about him? He said Zhen. Hualuo's expression was obviously not very good. If master knows that you're wrong, then go back to the Bai family and apologize. As long as you're willing to offer the pill in your hand to the Phoenix House and listen to your parents' orders in your marriage, he will forgive you for your past mistakes. Bai Yan's hand paused. He really said that? Yes. Hualuo bit her lips. If she wasn't in a hurry to return and report to her master, she would have long given that damn Bai Zhenxiang a violent beating. Bai Yan smiled lightly. What is he relying on? What makes him think that I will definitely ask for his forgiveness? Perhaps Wan Wan and Bai Zhenxiang's brains have a hole. Hualuo thought for a while and could only come up with this answer. I know about this. Pay attention to the Bai family and see if they have any connections. In fact, even if the Bai family curried favor with people from other forces, she had nothing to fear. However, she didn't like to let her enemies stay in her dark. Just as Hualuo was about to accept the order and leave, the sound of quarrels came from outside the courtyard door. Vaguely, a familiar angry shout could be heard. What right do you have to stop me from entering? Bai Yan is my older sister. What's wrong with me visiting my sister? Bai Yan's expression sank and the corners of her lips curled up into a cold smile. Hualuo, throw her out. If she doesn't want to leave, break her legs. A charming smile appeared on Hualuo's face. This Baizi is really a cockroach that can't be killed. Some time ago, Misty and Miss Chu beat her up to such an extent, but she's alive and kicking again after a few days. No matter how lively he is, he only has a few days. Chapter 257. 257 The Complacent Bai Zhenxiang, 3. Master, are you planning to make a move on the Bai family? The midwife from that year is dead, and there are other people who know the truth. Some time ago, I let a fox sneak into the Bai family to inquire about the situation. Now, there is almost some progress, he. As long as they investigated Lan Yu's death and her background, there was no need for the Bai family to stay. You're so noisy. The voices outside grew louder and louder. Diziaoun, who was in the middle of exchanging feelings with Bai Xiaochen, was completely enraged. She stood up with a bang and said angrily, where did this unruly person come from, daring to make a ruckus outside, are you looking for death? After saying this, Diziaoun put down Bai Xiaochen, who was in her arms, and quickly walked out of the door. Hualuo, you don't have to go. Bai Yan shrugged. Let Diziaoun settle this matter. Hualuo's eyes were full of sympathy. Why didn't Bai Ji learn? Why did he come to provoke master every time? This time, she'll be the one to suffer again, Yingluo. Outside the house, Bai Ji's hands were on her hips. Her face was red and her eyes were spitting fire. Just as she was about to argue with the guard again, a shadow shot out from the courtyard and kicked her in the chest. This kick used a lot of strength. Bai Ji's body was instantly sent flying and she fell to the ground in a sorry state. She opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood, her face pale as she looked at the young girl standing at the door. It's you. When Diziaoun saw Bai Ji, his eyes were a little surprised, and then he sneered in disdain, you again. It wasn't enough that you tried to lie to me last time. Now, you're even chasing after my sister-in-law. Bai Ji's body trembled as if she had recalled what had happened that day. She no longer had the haughty air of a peacock as she said with a trembling voice, I'm Yingluo, I'm here to look for my big sister. Diziaoun's eyes widened, who's your sister? That's my sister-in-law. If you call her your sister again, I'll beat you to death. Bai Ji bit her lips tightly, her heart filled with jealousy and hatred. She had originally thought that with Diziaoun's character, he would definitely not be easy to get along with Bai Yan. The reason why she liked Bai Xiaochen was also because she misunderstood that the bastard child was her nephew. But now, hearing Diziaoun repeatedly calling Bai Yan's sister-in-law and thinking of what she had experienced that day, it was as if there were 10,000 ants crawling on her heart again, gnawing at her heart. I'm here to tell Bai Yan. Bai Ji gritted her teeth and stood up from the ground. My second sister Bai Ruo's son has already entered the eyes of a big shot. That big shot is someone you all cannot afford to offend. As long as Lin Er needs it, the entire continent will be our world. If you let Bai Yan return to the Bai family to apologize to my father, she might be able to keep her life. In reality, the reason why Bai Ji came to look for Bai Yan was also Bai Zhenxiang's request. As for why Bai Zhenxiang did not personally come to Suanji. What a joke. With Bai Yan's temper, if he were to come, wouldn't he be beaten out? It was naturally impossible for him to come personally for such an embarrassing matter. Diziaoun pouted, the overlord of the continent. Do you think my sister-in-law would care? As long as she says the word, my big brother will immediately give her the demon world and the god world. Bai Ji was stunned. At most, she thought that Lin Er would rule the continent, but this Diziaoun was actually so whimsical. Not to mention whether the demon world and the god world really existed, even if they did exist in the world, with Bai Yan's strength, if she went to those places, wouldn't she be bullied by others? Seeing Bai Ji's dazed look, Diziaoun arrogantly raised his chin, are you going to leave on your own, or do you want me to kick you out? Chapter 258. 258 The Tragic Bai Ji. Baiji trembled and regained her senses. She bit her lips tightly and looked at Diziaoun with resentment. I hope you won't regret this. Diziaoun had been pampered since she was young. She had never been afraid of anyone except her brother and sister-in-law. Now that she heard Baiji's resentful voice, her beautiful eyes immediately widened. Men, capture this woman. Yes, Miss Di. The guards of the Phoenix House had been eyeing her covetously for a long time. Hearing Diziaoun's words, they quickly surrounded Baiji and surrounded her in the middle. Baiji finally panicked. What do you want? What are you doing? Diziaoun smiled evilly. I told you to leave just now, but you refused. Now you can't leave even if you want to. You guys, shave her head and tie her to a tree for everyone to see. All women love beauty, especially Baiji. Therefore, when she heard Diziaoun's words, a trace of fear appeared in her eyes. No, I know I'm wrong. Please let me go. The two guards held Baiji down firmly, then took a rope from another person and dragged her to a large tree at the side. Someone, go get a knife and carve the word bitch on her head. Diziaoun raised his chin. There are always people bullying sister-in-law. Today, I'll help sister-in-law vent her anger. Baiji closed her eyes in despair, her heart filled with hatred. She hated Bai Yan, hated Bai Xiaochen, hated Diziaoun, and at the same time, she also hated Bai Zhenxiang. If it was not for Bai Zhenxiang, she would not have come to look for Bai Yan and would not have resentfully let the declaration be destroyed in one day. As he watched her approach the tree, he lowered his head slightly and clenched his fists. Today's enmity, in the future, she would definitely repay it 1,000 times, 10,000 times. Just as Baiji was being tortured, the palace was in an uproar. Nangang Yuan hurriedly rushed out of the palace to welcome him. He immediately saw a white-robed old man with a sage-like demeanor. The old man was followed by a group of guards who were carrying a cage. Unfortunately, the cage was covered by a piece of red cloth and Nangang Yuan could only feel the pressure from within the cage. Elder Liming, Nangang Yuan regained his composure and walked forward in a flattering manner. I've been waiting for you for a long time. May I know what's in this cage? Liming furrowed his brows and ordered the people behind him to carry the cage away. He then looked at Nangang Yuan indifferently. Emperor Nangang, let's find a place to talk. This place isn't very convenient. All right, please follow me, Elder Liming. Nangang Yuan was taken aback for a moment before he nodded. Nangang Yuan then turned around and walked towards the imperial study. When he arrived at the imperial study with Liming, he dismissed the people around him and looked at the old man standing in front of him with a smile. Elder Liming, you can speak your mind now. Liming nodded calmly. I'm here this time to find the person who caused the 10,000 beasts to pay homage to their ancestors. At that time, I'll need your majesty's help to bring all the 5-year-old children in the country to the palace. Elder Liming, you're not here for Lin Er. Nangang Yuan was dumbfounded. Lin Er. Liming frowned slightly. Do I know him? If you don't know him, why did you come for him? At that moment, Nangang Yuan's face turned from green to white as he muttered, the imperial grandson is the one who triggered the miracle. Elder Liming, you don't have to wait long. I can get someone to bring him here. Chapter 259. 259 Chapter 250 If you're sick, treat it early. 1. This time, without waiting for Liming to speak, Nangang Yuan, who wanted to curry favor with the demonic beast sect, immediately let the eunuch in and ordered sternly, bring the imperial grandson here immediately. Liming's face turned green and then purple. The anger in his chest surged and he sneered, when did this elder say I wanted to see your eldest imperial grandson? Nangang Yuan was taken aback, isn't great elder here for the 10,000 beasts pilgrimage? My imperial grandson is the person who triggered the miracle, and everyone in the country knows about it. I thought that elder Suanji also came because of this news. It's just a rumor, how can this elder be a fool? Liming ignored Nangang Yuan's ugly expression and continued to sneer, that's right, the person from the 10,000 beasts imperial purposes is indeed from your Luhuo kingdom. I don't know if he is the imperial grandson or not, but when you summon all the children around the age of 5 in the kingdom, I will have my own way of distinguishing. Nangang Yuan furrowed his brows as he tried to hide the look of disdain in his eyes. He had thought that the elder of the demonic beast sect would be very smart, but he did not expect him to be so brainless. In Luhuo kingdom, the person with the highest status was his imperial grandson? How could those commoners compare to his royal bloodline? If the beasts did not worship the royal family, would the Swan and I submit to the commoners? It was laughable. Elder Liming, Nangang Yuan concealed the emotions in his eyes very well. I will issue an imperial edict right now and have all the 5-year-old children in the world come to the palace. Only then did Liming's expression turn for the better. All right, give the order immediately. I don't have time to wait too long. Also, I don't wish for too many people to know the reason why I'm here. What he meant was that he didn't want too many people to know the true purpose of this imperial decree. Nangang Yuan's speed was relatively fast and he had already spread the news in an instant. The entire country was in an uproar because of this. However, other than those who did not know the reason, Nangang Yi and Bai Ruo's expressions could be said to be colorful. Crown Prince, what does His Majesty mean by this? Bai Ruo was a little flustered. Didn't you say that the mystical beast sect came for Lin Er? Then why did you send all the 5-year-old children in the country to the imperial palace? She bit her lips tightly and her eyes were filled with worry. Nangang Yi frowned. I don't understand father's meaning either. Perhaps Yingluo is following the orders of the demon beast section. The demonic beast sect is not stupid. Why would they give such an order? It's clearly Lin Er who's the one facing the 10,000 beasts. What's the meaning of letting those people go? Bai Ruo's face was somewhat pale as she trembled. She was the one who spread the message about the 10,000 beasts greeting the ancestors, but after hearing these words so many times, she believed them. However, Suanji's demonic beast sect's actions had clearly caused her to panic. Nangang Yi's brows furrowed tighter and tighter. He really could not understand why Bai Ruo had such a big reaction to this matter. After a long time, he relaxed his brows and smiled. Ruoer, the reason why the mystical beast sect is doing this is perhaps because Qian wants to use those children to bring out Lin Er. Since Lin Er is a dragon, he'll be able to roam the heavens sooner or later. We don't have to worry about him. Is that true? Bai Ruo raised her head to look at Nangang Yi and lowered her head slightly. Ruoer understands now. Ruoer was indeed too emotional just now and lost her sense of propriety. Ruoer is only afraid that someone will do something and let Lin Er's glory be snatched away by him. Nangang Yi sneered, who would dare to play tricks in this prince's territory, Bai Ruo gave a bitter smile. Crown Prince, don't forget that there's still a Bai Xiaochen in this world. Bai Xiaochen is sinister and cunning, and his heart is vicious and vicious. I'm afraid that he will be jealous of Lin Er and secretly plot against him. Chapter 260. 260 Early treatment if you're sick, too. He would dare. Nangang Yi's eyes were spewing fire as he said angrily, as expected, it's the son that Bai Yan handed over. If he dares to touch Lin Er, even the demon beast sect will not let him off. Bai Ruo lowered her brows and tightly pursed her thin lips without saying a word. She did not know why, but she felt a little uneasy in her heart. It was as if something had gone out of her control. In the back court, the ground was covered with fallen flowers. Bai Yan sat in the pavilion with her hand supporting the back of her head as she lazily looked at the sun in the sky in a daze. Just then, a soft and small body crashed into her arms, almost knocking her over. Fortunately, Bai Yan managed to stabilize herself in time. Hugging her soft and cuddly body, her finger grazed the little bun's nose. You'll be 6 years old in a few months. Why are you still so reckless? You need to learn from Nangang Sun's maturity. Bai Xiaochen raised his cute little face and blinked his eyes. Mother, just now the emperor ordered for all the 5-year-old children to go to the palace. Chen Er also wants to go. Bai Yan raised her brows and looked at Bai Xiaochen in surprise. A bright smile appeared on Bai Xiaoqin's small face. Chen Er heard that the demonic beast sect is here as well, so I want to go and see how good they are at taming beasts. This little thing had never had any other interest since it was young. It loved to play with poisonous things and bully small animals. Just as she was about to speak, a deep voice suddenly came from the front. He can go. Bai Yan looked up. Under the bright sunlight, the man's silver hair was like a demon and his purple clothes were like evil. His looks were peerless and demonic. You're saying Chen Er can go? That's right. Dick Hang walked over and picked up the little bun who was nestled in Bai Yan's arms. Curling his red lips, he said, this time, the demonic beast sect has brought a glass dragon. Even though this king doesn't think much of this glass dragon, it's not bad to use it as a mount. Mount? Bai Yan's brows raised. Your younger sister gave Chen Er a mount before. That little phoenix can be a pet, but not a mount. The glass dragon is not bad. It can at least travel 10,000 miles a day, and its strength is stronger than the little phoenix. All right. Bai Yan was silent for a moment before turning her head to look at the little bun in Dick Hang's hands. If you want it, then go and get that glass dragon back. Thank you, Mother. Bai Xiaoqin's smile was innocent and cute. His pair of bright big eyes were very clean and clear, without a speck of dust. Dick Hang looked at the little person in his hand, a flickering light flashed in his phoenix eyes. Suddenly, he curled his lips and sneered. No one else had the right to bully his son. Whether it was the ones who bullied him or the ones who stole his glory, he would get them back bit by bit. As all the 5-year-old children in the country had gathered in the imperial city because of the imperial edict, the imperial city was not what it used to be. After everyone had arrived, they were led by the imperial guards into the palace that they had never seen before. Looking at the magnificent palace, the children's eyes were filled with amazement, and they looked at the people living in the palace with envy. At this moment, a thunder voice came from the side. Humph, a bunch of country bumpkins. Nangonglin sat in the crown princess's royal palanquin. He arrogantly lifted his chubby little face and disdainfully looked at the group of children who were dressed in old-fashioned clothes. Imperial mother, he pouted and turned to Byruo in dissatisfaction. Why did you let these country bumpkins come to the palace? This is my territory, and it will be sullied by this group of people. Chapter 261. 261 Early Treatment if you're sick. 3. Byruoxu was thinking about the purpose of the demonic beast sect and her expression was not too good. However, she still answered Nangonglin's question patiently. Lin be good. They were all sent by your grandfather to serve as a foil for you. Without them, how could your talents be revealed? Then what about Bai Xiaochen? Nangonglin pouted his little mouth and asked. Byruo composed herself and gently smiled. How can Bai Xiaochen be compared to you? Even if he comes, he's only here to highlight your existence. You don't have to put him in your eyes. The person Nangonglin hated the most was Bai Xiaochen. Now that he heard that Bai Xiaochen was merely a foil to him, he felt much more at ease. Imperial mother, you are right. How can Bai Xiaochen compare to me? I'm the overlord of the world, he's just a piece of trash. In the future, I want him to kneel at my feet and beg for mercy. Byruo absent-mindedly smiled and sighed. She hoped that it was really as the crown prince had said, that these people had come here only to set off Lin If the people of the demonic beast sect found out that she was the one who had spread the message back then, Suanji would definitely be in a very miserable state. Byruo's line of sight had just turned to the front when suddenly, a familiar figure reflected in her eyes, causing her eyes to suddenly narrow. Mother, why didn't bad father come? Bai Xiaochen stretched out his small head and looked around, but he still did not see Dikang's figure. He could not help but feel a little disappointed in his heart. Oh. Bai Yan gently stroked her chin and made a sound of agreement. Dikang said that he wants to invite us to watch a good show, so he will be a little late. Bai Xiaochen blinked his large eyes in puzzlement. Suddenly, a voice came from in front of him, pulling him back from his thoughts. A sharp voice resounded through the sky, causing everyone to turn their eyes. They immediately saw Ziaoun with his hands on his hips, looking at them angrily. In front of her, a young girl had her head splashed with feces and was standing up with the help of a servant girl in a sorry state. Mother, Gugu seems to have caused trouble again, Zhen. Bai Xiaoqin's large eyes had a gloating look, as if he was watching a good show. Let's go take a look. Bai Yan's eyes sank as she slowly walked towards Ziaoun. When Ziaoun saw Bai Yan's appearance, he instantly felt guilty and laughed dryly. Sister-in-law. Sister-in-law. This form of address made people take another look at Ziaoun before immediately turning to Bai Yan again, their eyes clearly containing disdain. The others were afraid of Phoenix House's strength and didn't dare to speak, but the young girl who was splashed with feces by Ziaoun was full of anger and said fearlessly, I originally thought that you were wholeheartedly devoted to Prince Kang. I didn't expect that you would have a new love so quickly. You even brought your new love's younger sister along. How despicable. What nonsense are you talking about? Ziaoun was furious. He widened his eyes. Kang is my brother. Prince Kang is such a capable person, how could he have such a shrewish sister like you? Do you think we will believe you? The young girl sneered and mocked. Ziaoun was so angry that his head was on fire. Just as he was about to go forward and teach this young girl a lesson, Bai Yan Liang's misty eyes glanced over. Tell me, what happened? Bai Yan's words made Ziaoun stop in his tracks. She laughed dryly twice. Previously, Chu Yi, Lan Ziaoun, and I went out to cause trouble. We beat up countless women from official families in the imperial city. This woman was one of them. Just now, she came out of nowhere and wanted to splash some dung water on me. I stopped her and splashed it all over her. After explaining, Ziaoun looked up pitifully, you won't be angry with me, right? Chapter 262. 262 Early Treatment if you're sick. 4. Angry. Bai Yan laughed bitterly. Just as Ziaoun was so scared that he shrunk his neck, he suddenly saw the woman in front of him suddenly lift her leg and kick the young girl who was covered in feces. See that? To deal with this kind of person, why do you need to talk to her? Just beat him up directly, and I'll deal with the aftermath if he's dead. Ziaoun was stunned. His pair of beautiful and innocent big eyes stared at Bai Yan in a daze, unable to recover from his shock for a long time. She was used to seeing her brother's ruthlessness. Now that she saw her sister-in-law's handsome actions while talking and laughing, her heart started to beat faster. The young girl stood up and was about to get angry when a maidservant beside her reminded her in a low voice, "Miss, he is the master of the Phoenix House and Prince Kang's fiancé. If the Prime Minister knew that you had offended her, he would be furious." The young girl's breath was stuck in her chest, neither going up nor down. She glared fiercely at the maidservant behind her, "Shut your mouth." However, she didn't dare to make any more moves, for fear that her father would beat her up when she returned. "Sis, I knew you would come." A gentle and beautiful voice came from behind, causing Bai Yan to immediately have goosebumps all over her body. Bai Ruo saw that Bai Yan was ignoring her and walked to the woman's side. Lowering her eyes, she laughed in a low voice. "Actually, you shouldn't have come. Even if you came, you'd only be a foil to Lin Er." Bai Yan's brows raised as she turned around to look at Bai Ruo with a smile that was not a smile. "I heard that Nangonglin was almost bitten to death while training a wild beast. Now that he's learned beast taming, he's planning to tame demonic beasts." Bai Ruo was stunned. "Taming demonic beasts? What do you mean by that? Moreover, Yingluo. Not long ago, Lin Er had almost been buried in the wolf's belly. She had already ordered to seal the mouth. How did this B*tch know? What do you mean? You can guess it yourself." Bai Yan shrugged her shoulders and turned around slightly, no longer looking at Bai Ruo. Bai Ruo's brows were tightly knitted, as if she was thinking about the meaning behind Bai Yan's words. However, at this moment, Nangonglin had already jumped down from the sedan chair and walked over to Bai Xiaochen with his head held high. He arrogantly raised his chubby face. "Bai Xiaochen, my imperial mother said that you came here to be my foil. I'm going to be the young sect leader of the demonic beast sect in the future, and all the beasts will listen to my orders. When you see me, you have to walk on your knees, do you hear me?" Bai Xiaochen swept a glance at Nangonglin. Your mother told Chen Er not to talk to idiots. Chen Er will be infected. Idiot. Nangonglin looked confused. "Where are the idiots here? This imperial grandson is talking to you, are you listening?" Bai Xiaochen shook his head and sighed. "If you're sick, you should treat it as soon as possible. If you delay any longer, your brain will be completely damaged." No matter how stupid Nangonglin was, he knew that Bai Xiaochen was scolding him. He was so angry that he raised his fist and wanted to punch Bai Xiaochen. However, Bai Ruo pulled him from behind and pulled him to her side. "Lin Er, don't be impulsive. Your father has gone to look for your imperial grandfather and is no longer by our side to protect us. For the time being, don't have any disputes with Bai Xiaochen." Nangonglin felt so wrong that his eyes turned red. "I'm the overlord of the continent. I'm going to rule the continent in the future. Why should I be afraid of Bai Xiaochen? Consort Mother Suanji. Lin Er, be good. When you become the last disciple of the demonic beast sect master, there will be people helping you from behind no matter how you want to deal with him." Bai Ruo kept comforting Nangonglin. A ruthless glint flashed in the corner of her eyes. No matter what, she would not allow anyone to destroy her son's path. Chapter 263. 263 Start Taming, 1. The Emperor has arrived. Suddenly, a sharp voice rang out from not far away, and the originally noisy crowd instantly quieted down. Everyone was looking at him. Under their gazes, a bright yellow robe slowly arrived. Apart from Nangong Yi, there was another sage-like old man beside Nangong Yuan. His sleeves were flowing in the wind, and his beard was as white as an immortal's. He was filled with righteousness as he walked over slowly. "Ruoer." Nangong Yi glanced at Bai Ruo and said a few words to Nangong Yuan before quickly walking to Bai Ruo's side. His eyes were filled with light. "Just now, Imperial Father told me that the demonic beast sect will have people tame beasts in public to prove the true identity of the 10,000 beasts greeting the section. Taming a beast in public." After hearing these words, Bai Ruo's tongue was a little tied. She suddenly recalled Bai Yan's earlier words, sob sob. And now, he had learned beast taming? Was that why he wanted to tame a demonic beast in public? In other words, Bai Yan had known the purpose of the demonic beast sect coming here from the very beginning. "Ruoer, you don't have to worry. Lin Er is the lord of all beasts. He won't be in any danger." Nangong Yi thought that Bai Ruo was worried about Nangonglin and smiled. Besides, he's grown up now. It's time to let him gain some experience. Bai Ruo's face turned pale. "Didn't you say that the demonic beast sect has already confirmed Lin Er's identity? Why did he have to do this again? Crown Prince, can you not let Lin Er tame the beast? I'm worried about him." "I won't." Nangonglin pouted, "I'm the lord of all beasts. Those demonic beasts will listen to me. How could they hurt me? I'm going to let the demonic beasts eat Bai Xiaochen." Lin Er. Bai Ruo was somewhat anxious. Never in her wildest dreams would she have thought that the demonic beast sect would tame a beast in public. "All right, Ruoer, You don't have to worry. Lin Er will not be in danger. Nangongyi smiled. I believe in my son. He will definitely be able to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. I also want to let Bai Yan understand that compared to Lin Er, Bai Xiaochen is nothing. Diziaoun glared fiercely at Nangongyi before turning his head to look at Bai Yan. Sister-in-law, can I beat him up? Sure. Bai Yan's lips curled up. However, you can fight after the beast taming is over. If you kill me, you'll have to deal with the aftermath. Diziaoun's eyes lit up. It felt good to have his sister-in-law protecting him. She could cause trouble openly, and his brother wouldn't dare to say a word against her. What's that unpleasant smell? Nangong furrowed his brows. He slowly scanned the area and saw the eldest daughter of the Prime Minister, who was covered in feces. How did you end up like this? Quickly retreat. Who's going to be responsible if we alarm Elder Liming? The young girl felt so aggrieved that she wanted to cry, but when she saw the murderous looks in the other's eyes, she gritted her teeth and retreated, leaving Suanji without looking back. Elder Liming, Nangong turned to Liming and said, we can start now. Men, bring the cage up, Liming said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, a group of guards in green robes carried a cage from behind. The top of the cage was covered with a piece of red cloth, which wrapped the entire cage, making it impossible for people to see what was inside the cage. Today, I've come for the matter of the 10,000 beasts returning to their ancestors. Whoever can tame this demonic beast will be the master of the 10,000 beasts. Elder Liming went straight to the point, his high-pitched voice reaching everyone's ears. In an instant, everyone's eyes turned to Nangongyi's family of three, their eyes filled with envy. Chapter 264. 264 Start Taming, 2. No wonder the Bai family claimed that they had established connections with a powerful faction. It turned out that the faction was the demonic beast sect. Everyone on the continent knew that Nangonglin's birth had caused all the beasts to pay homage to him. Now that the demonic beast sect had come, they must have come for Nangonglin. As for this beast taming battle, it was just for show. Nangongyi enjoyed the envious looks. He rubbed Nangonglin's head and said gently, Lin Er, don't let your father down. Father, can I go and tame the beast now? Nangonglin's eyes were filled with anticipation, and he didn't forget to glance at Bai Xiaochen smugly. His chubby face was filled with pride. However, Bai Xiaochen did not even spare him a glance. He stared at the glass dragon in the cage with interest. Wait. Seeing that Nangonglin was about to walk towards the cage, Bai Ruo subconsciously reached out and pulled him back. She bit her lip slightly. Lin Er, the most important person always appears at the last moment. You should wait for them to go first before you go. Imperial Mother is right. Nangonglin nodded. I'm the most important person, so I should appear at the last moment. Those lowlifes were only there to compliment him. Only if they failed first would he be able to show off his ability. Whoosh. At this time, someone had already lifted the cloth, immediately revealing the huge object curled up in the cage. It was a huge dragon. It was 8 feet long, with 4 claws and 3 wings. Its color was like jade, and its eyes were fierce. It issued a low warning sound from its mouth and looked vigilantly at the humans around it. Who's first? Liming's voice was calm as he asked. A child stood up and carefully walked towards the glass dragon. However, before he could get close to the glass dragon, he was frightened by the glass dragon's fierce eyes and began to cry. Mother, I'm scared. I want to go home. Watching the child cry endlessly, Liming shook his head and said, Next, Wufu. There were many 5-year-old children in the country, but these children's hearts were not mature enough. Before they even got close to the glass dragon, they were scared to tears and did not dare to come forward again. Liming's eyes were filled with disappointment. When he saw that there were only 2 of them left, his expression turned even uglier. He was so angry that he almost questioned Nangong on the spot. If he hadn't hidden the person, how could so many children not have found the person from the 10,000 beasts greeting the clan? Naturally, Nangong saw Liming's expression as well. He quickly shot a glance at Nangonglin. Lin Er, why are you still standing there? Aren't you coming up? What? Nangonglin was stunned. He felt wronged and said, but Bai Xiaochen hasn't gone yet. If he didn't let Bai Xiaochen experience failure first, how would he be able to highlight his strength? Hurry up and come up here. If you anger Elder Liming, don't even think about entering the Demon Beast sect. Nangongyuan's expression was very ugly. After glaring at Nangonglin, he turned to Liming and smiled flatteringly. Elder Liming, this is my imperial grandson. He won't let you down this time. Liming frowned as he looked at Nangonglin's fat body. He said indifferently, I hope so. Lin Er, Bai Ruo's heart clenched. She wanted to pull Nangonglin back, but a hand reached out from the side and stopped her. Ruo Don't you have any confidence in our son? He's so outstanding, he won't fail. Nangongyi smiled slightly and consoled her with a gentle tone. Bai Ruo didn't say anything. Her eyes were fixed on Nangonglin, who was walking towards the glass dragon. A sense of uneasiness rose in her heart. If Lin Er failed, then she would be embarrassed. Chapter 265. 265 Start Taming, 3. No. Lin Er would not fail, the heavens had always been on her side, so how could she be disappointed? At this time, Nangonglin had already walked to the glass dragon's side. He noticed the glass dragon's ferocious eyes and his heart trembled, but he still gathered his courage and walked over. Look, Elder Liming, I told you Lin Er would have no problem. A satisfied smile appeared on Nangongyuan's face. Those children didn't even get close to the glass dragon just now, but his grandson was able to walk towards it without fear. How many people in the world could compare to this kind of courage? I'm the lord of all beasts. Nangonglin's voice was trembling. Since you're a demonic beast, you should listen to me. Don't worry. If you follow me, I guarantee that you'll have a good life. I won't treat you badly. Liming's brows furrowed even more. This little fatty was really not likable. If he could really make the glass dragon surrender, then so be it, but if he couldn't, then he would just. A cold glint flashed in his eyes as he fixed his gaze on Nangonglin, who was standing beside the cage. Hey, if you don't say anything, I'll take it that you've agreed. When Nangonglin saw that the glass dragon didn't say anything, he thought that it had agreed. He was delighted and wanted to reach out to touch the glass dragon's head. Roar. Everyone thought that Nangonglin would definitely succeed. Some of the civil and military officials had already congratulated Nangongyi. A furious roar suddenly rang out and sent Nangonglin flying. He fell on his butt and sat on the ground. The fall was so painful that he burst into tears. Mother, he shouted at me. As my servant, he actually dared to shout at me. The entire backyard of the imperial palace was silent. Only Nangonglin's cries resounded in the sky. Bai Ruo's face was pale and her body staggered a few times, almost falling to the ground. Her lips trembled slightly and her eyes revealed despair. Next. Liming said indifferently without even looking at Nangonglin. Impossible, this is impossible. Nangongyi's voice was trembling, there must be a mistake somewhere. Elder Liming, give Lin Er another chance this time, she will definitely be able to tame the demonic beast. Liming sneered. The rumors in the marketplace really can't be believed. It was the sect leader who had the foresight to let me bring the glass dragon. Now, what else do you have to say? Elder Liming, Lin Er was too careless this time. Give him another chance. He will definitely succeed. Lin Er's birth had attracted the 10,000 beasts to pay homage to their ancestors. This was something that the entire country knew. Why did it fail? Elder Liming, my son is right. One time doesn't mean anything. Nangongyuan smiled apologetically. I hope that Elder Liming can give me another chance. Liming snorted coldly and did not say anything more. Nangongyuan quickly gave Nangonglin a look. Lin Er, why aren't you going? You can only succeed this time, you cannot fail. Nangonglin's eyes were filled with tears. He nodded and walked toward the glass dragon with fear. This time, before he could reach the glass dragon once again let out a warning roar, its eyes full of anger and disgust. Nangonglin was so scared that he took a few steps back and burst into tears again. Imperial Mother, Father, catch this glass dragon for me. It actually dared to shout at me, I'm going to give it a good beating. Ever since Lei Ming had arrived in Luhuo Kingdom, he had always been calm and collected. However, this time, he had smiled. He was so angry that he laughed. He's really a little genius. Even my sect leader doesn't dare to mess with this glass dragon, and he still wants to whip it? I've never heard of such a genius. Chapter 266. 266 Start Taming, 4. Nangongyuan's face was pale. He raised his head and looked at Liming, Elder Liming, being unable to tame a beast does not mean anything. The matter of Lin Er's 10,000 beasts paying homage to his master that day was spread by the most famous fortune teller in our Luhuo Kingdom. His words cannot be false. Moreover, who in Luhuo Kingdom would have the guts to lie to the imperial family? That was a great crime that involved 9 generations of his family. Liming laughed coldly. You bunch of people are really ignorant. The person who can cause the miracle of the 10,000 beasts greeting the ancestors can't tame beasts? If he doesn't even know how to tame beasts, then why do the beasts worship him? Nangongyuan's face turned pale as he replied, but almost everyone from our Luhuo Kingdom has already come, and no one has succeeded. If it's not Lin Er, who else could it be? Liming fell silent. He frowned and sighed helplessly, let's test this last one first. If he really can't do it, you can go and find someone else, perhaps you've missed out on a few people. He looked at Nangonglin's miserable crying and then at Nangongyi and his wife whose faces were pale. He gritted his teeth and said, "All right, then let's finish the last one." The last one left was Bai Xiao Chen. "Mother, Chen Er is a little sleepy. Why don't we come back tomorrow?" Bai Xiaoqin's body was snuggled up in Bai Yan's arms as he blinked his large eyes and said, "Don't tell me you don't want the glass dragon because it's ugly." The corners of Bai Yan's lips curled up as she asked with a smile that was not a smile. Bai Xiaochen was obviously hit by Bai Yan's words as he stuck out his tongue. "I like beautiful demonic beasts like Xiaomi and Xiaoyu. The glass dragon is too ugly, I don't like it." De Xiaoyun's mouth twitched. "Have you ever thought about the glass dragon's feelings when you said this in public? She's ugly, so why is he to blame?" Elder sister, Bai Ruo bit her lips and slowly stepped forward. "Since Chen Er is here, let him try." He couldn't let Lin Er lose face alone. Bai Xiaochan, this little bastard, must also accompany him. Bai Yan swept a glance at Bai Ruo and was a little surprised. "You're recovering very quickly." She originally thought that Bai Ruo would be at ease for a while after Nangonglin's failure embarrassed her. Who knew that her emotions would recover so quickly? No wonder he was an unkillable cockroach. "I'm also thinking for your sake, aren't I?" Bai Ruo's face paled. "Ruoer, don't say any more." Nangongyi's expression was unsightly. Something that Lin Er can't do, Bai Xiaochen definitely can't either. Furthermore, when Bai Yan went missing back then, Bai Xiaochen might not even have been born in Luhuo Kingdom. How could it be him? Looking at Nangongyi's disdainful gaze, Bai Xiaoqin's large eyes rolled as he smiled slyly. "Mother, Chen Er has suddenly thought it through. Although the glass dragon is ugly, it's still acceptable." After saying that, he had already let go of Bai Yan's hand and slowly walked towards the glass dragon. Bai Xiaochen did not tame the glass dragon directly but placed his hand on the shackles of the cage. With a bang, the shackles fell from his hands. "This is bad." Elder Liming's face turned pale with shock. He did not even have time to think about how Bai Xiaochen had opened the lock and saw the glass dragon that was originally locked in the cage run out like a fish in water, soaring into the sky. An excited roar shook everyone's chest. Then, he wagged his dragon tail and his huge body blocked the blue sky like dark clouds. Under this powerful pressure, everyone's expression changed drastically. Chapter 267. 267 Chapter 258 Get down. Quick, stop the glass dragon. Don't let him run out. Liming's expression changed drastically as he sternly ordered. In an instant, everyone from the demonic beast sect drew their weapons and flew into the air like lightning, surrounding the glass dragon. The glass dragon had had enough of being imprisoned. Seeing that this group of humans dared to stop it, it immediately swept its tail down and hit them in the chest, sweeping them down from the sky. Liming's expression grew increasingly unsightly. He no longer hesitated, pulled out his weapon, and flew into the sky. Looking at this sudden situation, Bai Ruo laughed in a low voice, "Sister, this time, your son has really caused a big trouble." Bai Yan's expression was indifferent as the corners of her lips curled up into a faint smile. "Chen Er, when you're done playing, we'll go home." "All right, Chen Er will listen to mother." Bai Xiaochen smiled brightly at Bai Yan and his small head turned to the glass dragon in the air. "Ugly glass dragon, you've attacked the wrong person." Looking at such a powerful glass dragon, everyone was frightened, but at this time, they were stunned. This little thing actually dared to call the glass dragon ugly? He even said that he attacked the wrong person. Was he tired of living? The glass dragon looked at Bai Xiaochen and then looked at the group of people from the demonic beast sect in front of it. It immediately left the group of people behind and quickly rushed toward Nangonglin. Nangonglin was so scared that he even forgot to escape. He just stared blankly at the glass dragon that was in front of him. It opened its bloody mouth and planned to swallow him in one bite. Of course. The glass dragon didn't really swallow him. When it saw that Nangonglin was so frightened by it that he burst into tears, a mocking look flashed through its ferocious eyes. The corners of Bai Yan's mouth twitched. This glass dragon was a pervert? Did he enjoy scaring people? Quick, take this opportunity to catch the glass dragon. Liming wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. He didn't have time to think about why the glass dragon turned to Nangonglin and immediately gave his order. As if sensing the approach of the people behind it, the glass dragon's eyes showed a hint of ferocity again, and it turned around and roared. His roar was like a tornado, sweeping away the demonic beast sect disciples. Even the Empress Dowager, who had rushed over, was affected and almost fainted. This time, it completely angered Bai Xiaochen. "Glass dragon, get over here." The little bun had his hands on his hips and his eyes were wide open. "Who told you to shout just now? It's fine if you yell at others, but why do you have to drag the innocent Empress Dowager down with you?" The glass dragon was stunned. He stopped his actions and looked at Bai Xiaochen with some caution. Bai Xiaochen raised his chin arrogantly. Immediately lie down. You're not allowed to get up unless I tell you to. Initially, everyone thought that the little tyrant Nangonglin was already arrogant enough. They did not expect that Bai Xiaochen was even more arrogant than him. He actually made the glass dragon lie down. Who did he think he was? Nangongyi sneered and was just about to say a few mocking words when the next second, the expression on his face suddenly froze. The glass dragon, whose face was still filled with ferocity just now, used an extremely slow posture to move towards Bai Xiaoqin's side bit by bit. It was just like a little wife who had been bullied, and its eyes were full of grievances. Its two sharp claws held its head, and it gradually lay on the ground. Its long body curled up into a ball, and it whimpered pitifully. Bai Yan had already walked to the Empress Dowager's side and fed her a medicinal pill before she slowly recovered. Immediately after, the Empress Dowager saw the glass dragon lying in front of Bai Xiaochen like a little wife and was so shocked that she could not say a single word. Time seemed to have stopped. The people around them could clearly hear each other's breathing. Chapter 268. 268 Exposed, 1. How could it be him? He was the one who could tame the glass dragon. Not to mention Bai Ruo's family of 3, even the others didn't dare to believe it. However, the truth was so obvious. The glass dragon, which was resistant to anyone, was as obedient as a little pet in front of him. I don't believe it. Nangongyi ran out madly and charged towards Bai Xiaochen in a frenzy. Bai Xiaochen is a bastard, just a bastard. How could he allow a bastard to surpass his noble son? Just as Nangongyi was about to rush in front of Bai Xiaochen, a dragon's tail swept past and sent Nangongyi's body flying. He fell into the crowd with a thud. Roar. The glass dragon roared, and its condescending eyes seemed to be mocking this human for overestimating his own strength. Nangongyi's body trembled and he clenched his fists tightly. The blood in his palm flowed out from the gaps between his fingers. His blood-red eyes stared unwaveringly at Bai Xiaochen, who was protected behind the glass dragon. The jealousy and unwillingness in his heart were like a flame that spurted out. I don't believe it, I don't believe it. At this moment, the few people from the demonic beast sect had also recovered from their shock. Liming's previous calm demeanor was replaced by a hearty laugh. We've finally found the person who sent the 10,000 beasts greeting the sect. We didn't let the sect master down. After a long time, he stopped laughing and quickly walked towards Bai Xiaochen. He flicked his sleeves and knelt down on one knee. I am the Grand Elder of the demonic beast sect, Lei Ming. I am here to welcome the young Master Bai. We pay our respects to young Master Bai. Everyone from the demon beast sect knelt on the ground, and their high-pitched voices echoed in the blue sky for a long time. Bai Ruo's face was deathly pale, her trembling lips unable to say a word. Why was it Bai Xiaochen? Even if the glory of the 10,000 beasts greeting the clan was snatched away by others, it was still better than Bai Xiaochen. He was just a bastard, how could he have such a high status? Bai Ruo's heart felt like it was being gnawed at by 10,000 ants. The pain was unbearable. Blood seeped out of her tightly bitten lips, but she was not aware of it at all. Her eyes filled with jealousy and hatred glared fiercely at Bai Yan and her son, her gentle and beautiful face revealing a sinister look. However, at this moment, Nangonglin tugged at Bai Ruo's sleeve. His chubby face was filled with dissatisfaction. Imperial Mother, what right does that bastard Bai Xiaochen have to snatch away my slave? I want that glass dragon, get it back for me. You shut up. Nangongyuan suddenly shouted and interrupted Nangonglin's words. His pale face was filled with anger. What's going on? Can you explain it to us? Liming furrowed his brows. This Nangongyuan really had no upbringing. He actually dared to speak so loudly in public. If he scared the young Master Bai, the sect master would definitely skin him alive. You want to know what happened? Bai Yan's lips curled up into a faint smile. She slowly walked towards Bai Xiaochen and the glass dragon. I will naturally give you an explanation later. Her eyes seemed to inadvertently sweep over Bai Ruo. This one look seemed to be able to see through everything, making Bai Ruo's body almost fall. No. That was impossible. She had already dealt with Lu Er, and the fortune teller from back then had also died at her hands. No one could possibly know of this matter. Glass dragon. Bai Yan retracted her gaze and lowered her gaze to look at the glass dragon that was prostrating on the ground. If you want to stay by our side, you must follow my rules. First, you can't kill the innocent. Second, if anyone calls Chen Erab****, he will be your meal tonight. Third, Yingluo is not allowed to eat too much, I can't afford to raise him. Chapter 269. 269 Exposed, 2. The first two requests were still acceptable, but what the hell was the last one? What did she mean by she couldn't afford it? The income from Phoenix House alone was more than enough to raise 100 glass dragons. Miss Bai, Liming's expression changed and he hurriedly said, The glass dragon has never recognized anyone. Even if you are the mother of the young master Bai, you are still afraid. Before he could finish his sentence, Liming's eyes widened in shock. He was so shocked that he could not even say a word. Will you? The glass dragon whimpered and obediently rubbed its head against Bai Yan's hand, its eyes containing a touch of flattery and fear. Yes, fear. The glass dragon looked at Bai Yan carefully, its expression even more respectful than when it saw Bai Xiaochen earlier. It was just a pity that the others did not notice the glass dragon's emotions. They all thought that it was so friendly to Bai Yan only because Bai Yan was Bai Xiaoqin's mother. Imperial mother, Nangonglin sniffed as tears fell down again. I just want that glass dragon. The glass dragon was originally mine. Why is he so good to Bai Xiaochen? Bai Ruo's face turned pale. When she saw that Liming and the rest's faces were turning uglier and uglier, she was afraid that Nangong Yuan would reprimand her again. She hurriedly stopped them and said, Lin don't say any more, let's go now. No, I'm not leaving, I want the glass dragon. I also want to become the young sect leader of the demonic beast sect. I want to make Bai Xiaochen kneel and beg for mercy. Nangonglin cried and shouted. His face was covered in tears and snot as he struggled to break free from Bai Ruo's hand. Bai Ruo's expression changed. With a paw sound, she slapped Nangonglin's face. Nangonglin was stunned by the slap. He raised his head and looked at Bai Ruo, his tears falling even more fiercely. Imperial mother, you hit me. You actually hit me. Wow, I hate Imperial mother. Bai Ruo's face turned green and purple. This was the first time she regretted letting Nangonglin have his way all these years. Liming snorted coldly and his lips curled into a mocking smile. When did a piece of trash become our demonic beast sect's young sect leader? Crown Prince, Crown Princess, shouldn't you give this elder an explanation for this matter? Nangongyi's expression stiffened and he said submissively, this Zhen, this is only Lin Er's mouth. After all, he is still a child, Zhen. It's precisely because he's a child that he knows what the demonic beast sect is. Would you understand what a young sect master is? Liming's eyes were as sharp as a sword. If you didn't talk to him about this all the time, would he have understood? Nangongyi's handsome face was pale. He did not answer Liming's words and turned to look at Bai Yan. He gritted his teeth and said, Bai Yan, at the very least, we once had a relationship. Is this how you treat me? As soon as he said this, a cold laugh came from behind him, carrying a heavy pressure. This king didn't know when this king's fiancée had a relationship with you. Everyone was startled and turned to look at the voice in a daze. Under the scorching sun, his silver hair was extremely dazzling. The man was alluring and peerless like a painting. His perfect side profile was so stunning that it made people's hearts beat faster. However, all the women in this world were just so to him. His gaze was only focused on Bai Yan from the beginning to the end. In a few steps, he had already arrived in front of her. He raised his hand and pulled the extremely beautiful woman in red into his arms. Little Yan your taste in men was really bad in the past. It's a good thing that your taste has improved and you didn't miss this prince. This was the first time Bai Yan had seen a man who boasted to such an extent. She glared at Dikang, if my eyesight was that bad, I would rather poke my own eyes. Chapter 270. 270 Exposed, 3. This sentence made Dikang's mood very happy as the corners of his lips curled up into an arc. Don't worry, you have good taste. The conversation between the two of them as if there was no one else around made Nangongyi's expression turn uglier. He clenched his fists tightly and the flames of jealousy in his heart burned fiercely. Bai Xiaochen blinked his large, bright eyes. Mother said you wanted to invite Chen to watch a good show. Where's the show? There's no rush, the show will start soon. The corners of Dikang's lips carried a faint smile and a cold light flashed through his phoenix eyes. This good show is also something this king invites the world to see. Nangongyi gritted his teeth. You guys can slowly watch the show. Ruoer, take Lin and let's go. Bai Ruo did not care about the crying Nangonglin. She pulled him and turned to leave. However, she had only taken 2 steps when a sinister voice came from behind her. You're the main characters of this show, how can you leave? Bai Ruo's body stiffened. She did not know why, but a sense of panic emerged from the bottom of her heart. It was at this moment that a sound rang out. Under the protection of 2 guards, a maidservant dressed in an emerald green dress slowly walked over. This maidservant saw Bai Ruo standing in the crowd and her eyes were filled with hatred. Is the crown princess thinking why the servant is still alive? Laughed coldly and said sarcastically, all these years, how many outrageous things have the servant done for the crown princess consort? Now that you don't need the servant, you want to eliminate the servant. These words were like a heavy stick that smashed into the crowd. Other than the 5-year-old children, there were also civil and military officials. Their impression of Bai Ruo was that she was gentle and kind, repaying evil with good. Why did Suanji's personal maidservant say such words? Nangong Yuan hurriedly shot a look at Nangong Yi. No matter what Bairuo had done, it had to be resolved in private. If it was brought out in the open, it would only damage the reputation of the imperial family. Nangong Yi received Nangong Yuan's glance and hurriedly stepped forward, wanting to stop Lu Er. However, at this moment, Dikang's cold gaze drifted over and the corners of his lips curled into a cold smile. This king invited all of you here to watch a show. This show hasn't ended yet, so who would dare to stop it midway? Nangong Yi stopped in his tracks. Under Dikang's pressure, he was horrified to find that Yingying did not even have the strength to lift her feet. Nangong Yuan fell to the ground in defeat with a look of despair. This time, the royal family's reputation would be destroyed. Continue, Dikang's cold eyes swept over and his tone was slightly cold. Yes, Your Highness. Lu Er suppressed the hatred in her heart and said, that year, before the crown princess had married the crown prince, she had ordered the servant to do something for her. Wan shocked the court that year. When Lu Er said this, she walked to Bai Yan's side and knelt on the ground with a plop, fiercely kowtowing, eldest miss, it's the servant who deserves to die. That's why I helped second miss to frame you back then. The second miss was jealous that you, a waste, could still marry into the imperial family. She ordered the servant to buy her an aphrodisiac and even prepared a man for you. Who knew that you would escape? But the drug took effect and you had to solve it with someone, so second young lady brought us to look for you everywhere and finally found you in the wild with disheveled clothes. Chapter 271. 271 Exposed, 4. Everyone fiercely sucked in a breath of cold air, their eyes looking at Bai Ruo full of disbelief. So it turned out that Bai Yan's loss of her virginity back then was actually set up by Bai Ruo. How old was she then? He's only a teenager, and he already has such vicious thoughts. You're talking nonsense. Bai Ruo charged forward madly, but before she could reach Lu Er, she was stopped by two guards. Lu Er gritted her teeth. Crown Princess, when you gave birth to the eldest imperial grandson, you were only 6 months married to the crown prince, but you gave birth to him as if he was a full month old. You claimed to the public that you were born prematurely, and because the heavens were watching over you, the eldest imperial grandson was born safely. In reality, you and the crown prince had an affair before marriage and you were pregnant, but you claimed that you were marrying in place of the eldest miss. Bai Ruo's eyes were bloodshot as she stared at Lu Er. I've treated you well, why do you want to harm me like this? You're treating me well? In order to make me work wholeheartedly, you killed my younger brother so that I would work for you without any worries. Is this what you mean by treating me well? Lu Er's eyes were filled with hatred. If the Kang Emperor had not told her the cause of her brother's death, she would not have known that the crown princess consort would be so vicious. Yingluo, you're talking nonsense. Bai Ruo's eyes flashed with panic. Impossible. She had done this very discreetly, so how did Lu Er know? Besides, I know too many of your secrets. That's why you wanted to kill me. Lu Er smiled coldly. Fortunately, Prince Kang's men saved me, giving me the chance to expose your fake identity. She slowly turned around under Bai Ruo's furious gaze and faced Nangong Yi. Does your highness the crown prince know how the empress died? She was killed by the crown princess. On that day, this servant was standing guard outside the cold palace for the crown prince consort. This sentence caused Nangong Yi to explode. He clenched his fists so tightly that they made cracking sounds. He gritted his teeth and looked at Bai Ruo. Bai Ruo, is what Lu Er said true? Crown prince, Bai Ruo tightly bit her lips, tears streaming down her face. This cheap girl offended me before and was driven out of the crown prince's residence by me in a fit of anger. She was resentful and wanted to take revenge just now. How could I have caused imperial mother's death? Nangong Yi's gaze turned to Lu Er again and his eyes darkened. You're saying that Bai Ruo killed imperial mother? What's the benefit of her doing this? Does the crown prince remember the imperial decree that the empress gave that day? That imperial decree was incited by the crown prince consort, which caused a great disaster. The empress wanted to drag the crown prince consort down and was found out by the crown prince consort, so the crown prince consort ruthlessly killed her. In reality, the empress never wanted to drag Bai Ruo into the water. After all, Bai Ruo was the mother of her grandson. However, Bai Ruo was used to being cautious. How could she allow such a threat to remain? That was why he poisoned the empress. Bai Ruo. Tell me, is what Lu Er said true? Nangong Yi took a deep breath and his eyes were filled with pain and anger. He had never thought that the woman who had shared the same bed with him for so many years would have such a vicious heart. No, Crown Prince, you have to listen to my explanation. I really didn't do that. It was Lu Er who framed me. Bai Ruo cried miserably and pitifully, her already snow-white face as transparent as a thin piece of paper. The grievances in her voice made it impossible for anyone to not be moved. Nangang Yi was suspicious. Could it be that Yingluo was really framed by Lu Er? Or was all of this a plot by Bai Yan and Dikang? Crown Prince, seeing that Nangang Yi was a little loose, Lu Er lowered her head and said, "The last thing I want to say is the truth of the 10,000 beasts greeting their ancestors." When this servant first reported this phenomenon to the Crown Princess immediately ordered the servant to spread the news, claiming that she urged all the beasts to pay homage to their ancestors in order to welcome the birth of the imperial grandson. Chapter 272. 272 by Ruo's End, 1. At this moment, the imperial palace's backyard became quiet again. This level of silence was not the slightest bit weaker than Bai Xiaoqin's taming of the glass dragon. Even Nangonglin, who was crying non-stop, stopped crying for a moment. He looked at Bai Ruo, who was trembling beside him, in a daze. As it turns out, this news that everyone believed in was actually spread by Bai Ruo. "Lu Er, if you continue to frame me, do you believe that I won't tear your mouth apart?" Bai Ruo could no longer care about her usual reserve and gentleness. Her face was twisted and ferocious, her eyes spewing fire as she gritted her teeth. Looking at Bai Ruo, who was no longer gentle, Nangang Yi subconsciously took 2 steps back and his eyes gradually filled with disappointment. After the disappointment, it was anger. "Bai Ruo, this crown prince is really miserable because of you. If not for that rumor, how could he be so arrogant? How could he have lost his face in public? Crown Prince, I'm Qian." Just as Bai Ruo was about to defend herself, she suddenly saw 2 more people walk in from outside the back garden. One of them was dressed as a fortune teller, while the other was wearing a bamboo hat. From her figure, one could tell that she was a woman. Immediately, Bai Ruo's eyes widened. Lu Er was still alive, but why was Prophet Lu, who had been dead for so many years, still alive? "Crown Princess, how have you been?" Lu Xiantian sneered. "5 years ago, you took my family and forced me to work for you. I listened to you and spread the news that Nangonglin was the master of all beasts. But I didn't expect you to kill my family and hunt me down." When the people present heard this, they all couldn't help but gasp. Bai Ruo's method of getting people to work for her was really the same. The first person she would use was the other party's family. How did such a vicious woman make them believe in her for so many years? It's a pity that I, Prophet Lu, can tell the fortune of others and have never failed, but I can't tell my own fortune. Fortunately, I met a master on the way who saved me from death, which gave me a chance to come back. Back then, the reason why people believed this rumor without a doubt was because of this Prophet Lu. He was a fortune teller and had never failed. Even Nangang Yuan knew of his existence and had tried to invite him to become an official several times. Unfortunately, Prophet Lu did not want to be bound, so he refused him. "Is what Mr. Lu said true?" Nangang Yuan's voice was trembling. "I, Prophet Lu, have never told a lie except for what happened 5 years ago. Over the past few years, he had been living in regret. If he had known that Bai Ruo would not let go of his family, he would never have let her have her way. Unfortunately, he did not have the strength to take revenge. Luhuo Kingdom was basically Bai Ruo's world now. If he came back, he would only be sending himself to death. Therefore, all these years, he had been looking for an opportunity to recompose himself." "He, Nangang Yuan laughed sarcastically, "What a good Bai Ruo, you've really played everyone for a fool. Do you know the consequences of lying to this one?" Bai Ruo took 2 steps back and bit her lips. "I didn't do these things. The reason why Prophet Lu left back then was that he had an affair with Lu Er, so I drove him away. It's just the 2 of them working together to frame me." "I know." Bai Ruo suddenly widened her eyes and looked at Lu Er with heartache. "Lu Er, you must have harbored a grudge against me for breaking you and Prophet Lu up back then. That's why you helped Bai Yan to frame me. I did that for your own good, so why did you treat me like that?" Chapter 273. 273 Bai Ruo's Doomsday, 2. Seeing Bai Ruo's twisted words, Lu Er was also stunned for a moment. She had forgotten what she was going to say next. "Bai Ruo, I hope what you said is true. If I find out that you're lying to me, I won't let you off." Nangang Yi pursed his thin lips slightly and a cold glint flashed in his sharp eyes. Having shared the same bed with Bai Ruo for so many years, he was still unwilling to believe that Bai Ruo was such a vicious woman. At this moment, a familiar sneer suddenly rang out. This sneer was like a sharp sword that instantly pierced through Nangang Yi's soul. Nangang Yuan, who was sitting on the throne, also stood up with disbelief in his eyes. Wasn't she dead? Why was he standing here? The Mother Empress. Nangang Yi's lips trembled slightly. He didn't hear it wrong, and he wouldn't hear it wrong. That voice really was his mother's. In that case, Mother didn't die. The woman who had been standing next to Lu Xianzi took off her bamboo hat, revealing a pale face. Her face was no longer as noble and dignified as it was a few days ago, and there was a sense of vicissitudes between her brows. But even so, after seeing this familiar face, Nangongyi's expression changed from the initial shock to excitement. Finally, he quickly walked towards Ning Dai. "Mother, what is going on, haven't you already fallen?" The moment Ning Dai appeared, all of the officials were shocked. At that moment, everyone was staring at her, who was no longer as beautiful as before, perhaps waiting for her to give them an answer. Ning Dai's eyes were filled with hatred as she stared at Bai Ruo. Under her gaze, Bai Ruo's face gradually revealed despair. Her hand tightly held onto a tree to the side, allowing her body to stand firm. "My son, you should ask your good wife about this." She laughed coldly. "Back then, I believed her words and misunderstood Bai Yan. That was why I issued an imperial decree for Dikang to marry Bai Ji. However, I did not expect His Majesty to be so furious. Bai Ruo, that slut, is even more afraid that I'll drag her into the water, so she didn't hesitate to harm my life. If it wasn't for Prince Kang who was fortunate enough to pass by and save my life, perhaps I would have already died together with the old granny." Ning Dai gently closed her eyes, her face filled with regret and deep pain. She regretted being deceived by Bai Ruo's fake kindness that year, which almost caused her to lose her life. Nangongyi's head slowly turned to Bai Ruo. His eyes had already changed from shock and disappointment to hatred and disgust. It turns out that Lu Er and Prophet Lu did not lie. You did everything. He could choose not to believe Lu Er or Prophet Lu, but he could not choose not to believe his own mother. And when he thought of the few years he had shared the same bed with such a vicious woman, Nangongyi's stomach churned and he almost vomited. "You can even do things like killing my imperial mother. Then these few years, you have been speaking ill of Bai Yan in front of me all the time. Isn't that all just nonsense you made up?" The funny thing was that he really believed in her. "Crown Prince," Bai Ruo panicked and knelt on the ground, her delicate body trembling, "please spare Ruoer's life on account of Ruoer giving birth to Lin Er for you. Ruoer knows her mistake." "Enough!" Nangong angrily shouted, "You still have the nerve to mention Lin Er? I didn't expect that you were the one behind the 10,000 beasts greeting the clan. The funny thing is, I actually believed it for so many years. Bai Ruo, you're really treating everyone in the world like fools. Do you know that your actions have ruined Lin Er's life?" Chapter 274. 274 Bai Ruo's End, 3. Bai Ruo hung her head in defeat. She knew that no one could help her this time. "Someone, pass on my order." Nangong Yuan was furious. Bai Ruo deliberately plotted against the Empress and deceived the upper and lower. "Drag her out and execute her by 1,000 cuts." The words "death by 1,000 cuts" finally caused Bai Ruo to panic. She crawled in front of Nangong Yuan and kowtowed loudly. "Imperial father, I know I was wrong. I beg you to give Lin Er, your grandson, a quick and painless death. You are not qualified to mention Lin Er, you don't deserve to be his mother. Why are you still standing there? Drag this woman away, I don't want to see her again." A look of disgust appeared on Nangong Yuan's face as his heart was filled with regret. If he had known that Bai Yan would have such achievements, he would have insisted on Bai Yan marrying into the royal family that day. "Crown Prince." Seeing that it was useless to plead for mercy, Bai Ruo stood up from the ground. She looked at Nangongyi and sneered. "How do you think you got your position as the crown prince? If it weren't for the words I spread, you would never have had the chance to become the crown prince. Now, you want to burn the bridge after crossing it? It's not that easy. Don't forget that you only have one child, Lin Er. If you don't save me, Lin Er will hate you for life." Bai Ruo's beautiful red eyes burst out with hatred as she gritted her teeth and said. Nangongyi smiled coldly, "This crown prince can have any woman I want. There are countless people who are willing to bear me a son." He, Bai Ruo's lips curled up in ridicule, "After I gave birth to Lin Er, I drugged you. In this life, besides Lin Er, you will not have any other children. If I die, you will also lose your son, Lin Er." "What did you just say?" Nangong Lin's face froze. His eyes turned red and blood vessels started to spread from his eyes. "I dare you to say that again?" It was no wonder that after so many years, with so many concubines in the residence, not a single one of them was pregnant. It was actually because of Bai Ruo's tricks. "How could I, Bai Ruo, allow my man to have children with another woman? As for me, it's enough to have Lin Er. You can't have any more children with anyone else in your life." If Nangong Lin were to lose his identity as the lord of all beasts, he would be completely crippled. Originally, Nangongyi did not care about it. Since he had lost a son, he could just have another one. Who knew that Bai Ruo would suddenly say the sentence, causing Nangongyi's emotions to completely erupt, and he madly rushed towards Bai Ruo. "B*tch, I'm going to kill you, B*tch." His two big hands ruthlessly grabbed Bai Ruo's neck, as if he wanted to strangle her to death. Looking at the ashen face of the man in front of her, Bai Ruo's lips slightly raised. Being strangled to death by him was better than being executed by 1,000 cuts. Otherwise, she would not have said this out loud to deliberately provoke Nang Gongyi. Just as Bai Ruo closed her eyes and waited for death, a dagger flew over from afar and instantly landed on the back of Nang Gongyi's hand. Nang Gongyi shrieked and released his hand. Bai Ruo, who was panting, fell to the ground and panted heavily. In an instant, everyone's eyes turned to the red-robed woman, Lao Ai. Under the scorching sun, the woman's smile was like a flower, absolutely beautiful. Bai Ruo, you've done so many things to me. Do you think I'll allow you to die so easily? The corners of Bai Yan's lips curled up into a faint smile as her black eyes looked down at Bai Ruo, who had fallen to the ground and could not get up. The smile in her eyes gradually turned cold. Chapter 275. 275 Bai Ruo's End, 4. Bai Ruo's body stiffened, and a look of despair appeared on her face. She looked at the woman who was looking down at her from above and sneered, Bai Yan, what I regret the most is that Shiju did not kill you back then. Even now, Bai Ruo still did not know how to repent. She attributed all the responsibility to her not killing Bai Yan back then. If Bai Yan died, how would she end up in such a state? No, what you regret the most should be framing me. The corners of Bai Yan's lips curled up as she said indifferently, if you wanted to marry Nang Gongyi, you could have married him. However, you framed me because of this. If not for this, I would not have not even given you a quick death today. The moment her voice fell, Bai Yan instructed, Mother Chu, bring her back to the old mansion and hand her over to Hualuo. Hualuo knows what to do with her. What would welcome Bai Ruo would definitely be a fate worse than death. Bai Ruo's body was paralyzed and her face was deathly pale. She tightly bit her lips and blood flowed out from her lips, but she didn't feel it. This time, the person who had followed Bai Yan was Mother Chu. However, without Bai Yan's instructions, Mother Chu remained in the crowd and did not come out. Now that she had heard the order, she walked out. Bai Ruo, do you want me to drag you away or do you want to come with me? She asked with a seductive smile. I'm Qian. Bai Ruo's face turned pale as she bit her lips. Other than the word I, she could not say anything else. It seems like you're waiting for me to make a move. Mother Chu smiled and picked up Bai Ruo, who was sprawled on the ground. She dragged her out of the courtyard like she was dragging a dead dog. Nangong Lin stood at the side, his fat body trembling. He watched as Bai Ruo was dragged away, but he didn't have the courage to take a step forward. When she was being dragged away, Bai Ruo passed by Nangong Lin. She clearly saw Nangong Lin take 2 steps back and look at Mother Chu with frightened eyes filled with tears. At this moment, Bai Ruo's heart was filled with disappointment. Nangongyi did not care about her, and even her son, who had always been full of confidence, was acting like a coward at this time. Mother Suanji, Mother Consort Suanji. Nangong Lin's expression was very timid. He originally wanted to say something, but Bai Ruo had already been dragged out in front of him. Empress, Nangong Yuan's gaze turned towards Ning Dai, whose face was filled with vicissitudes of life. It's good that you're back. I will arrange a palace for you. Ning Dai trembled and lowered her head. There's no need. I'm currently in Poison Valley. The Valley Master of Poison Valley, Lao Ai, is quite good to me. I won't be coming back. During her time in the Poison Valley, she had never rested and was constantly being used as a drug tester. Her heart, however, was at ease. She no longer had to fight for love with other women, and she no longer had to revolve around a man every day. Even if she was still being treated as a drug tester in the Poison Valley, it was better than the concubines who were trying to outwit each other. Nangong Yuan was stunned for a moment before his eyes flickered. Poison Valley, you mean the mid-tier sect Poison Valley? Could it be that after you left the palace, you were taken in by the Poison Valley? Naturally, Ning Dai noticed the slyness in Nangong Yuan's eyes. She smiled faintly. I'm afraid that your majesty won't be able to make use of me. I'm only a drug tester in the Poison Valley and I'm insignificant. The Valley Master has treated me well and can't live without me. If your majesty forces me to stay, I'm afraid that Qian will anger the Valley Master. Nangong Yuan's expression was a little awkward after being seen through by Ning Dai. The Empress has made up her mind, and Zhen will not stop her. I will order people to send you away. Many thanks, your majesty. Ning Dai smiled slightly and turned around indifferently. She walked to Dikang and Bai Yan's side. First, she bowed to Dikang before turning her head to look at Bai Yan. Chapter 276. 276 The high-profile Bai family. Young Miss Bai, I have made many mistakes that day. During the time I was in the Poison Valley, I have reflected on myself. It is all thanks to you and His Highness not bearing grudges that I was able to keep my life. Her indifferent expression no longer had the arrogance and grace she once had. These clear and breezy emotions also made Bai Yan truly feel that the Empress had indeed changed. This time, I came back to expose Bai Ruo's true colors. Since this matter is done, I should leave. Bai Yan's lips curled up into a faint smile. It's good that you've thought it through. As for Bai Ruo Fei, I'll make my subordinate suffer a fate worse than death. That's good. How could Ning Dai not hate Bai Ruo? She had treated her so well, but in return, she had been cruel and unscrupulous. This time, besides exposing Bai Ruo, Ning Dai also wanted to see the price she had to pay. Now that Hua had fallen into Bai Yan's hands, her outcome could be described as miserable. At the very least, it was more miserable than His Majesty's death by 1,000 cuts. After Ning Dai left, Nangongyi could not even say a single word to persuade her to stay, and she had already left Yingying. It was as if the palace was no longer her home. Bai Yan is in a daze. Nangongyi looked at Bai Yan's beautiful face and his voice was a little dry and hoarse. His gaze contained guilt, regret, and deep pain. Especially when he saw Dikang standing side by side with her, the man was handsome and the woman was beautiful, like a pair of pearls made in heaven. It also deeply pierced his eyes red. All of this should have been his. Bai Yan was his wife. Since Bai Xiaochen was born by Bai Yan, it would also be his son, Hua. However, that B*tch Bai Ruo had forcefully destroyed his marriage with Bai Yan. From the beginning to the end, Bai Yan did not even look at Nangongyi. She slowly walked to the Empress Dowager's side and supported her. Did I scare you just now? The Empress Dowager shook her head and affectionately patted Bai Yan's hand. Child, you've finally come back to life after suffering so much. I won't let you down. Hearing the Empress Dowager mention Lan Yu, Bai Yan was startled. She pursed her lips and did not say a word. Child, can you come with me for a moment? I have something to give you. She had only met the Empress Dowager a few times, and they did not even share the same kinship as the Lan family. However, she could feel that the Empress Dowager was one of the few people in Luhuo Kingdom who really cared about her. This time, Dikang did not force himself to follow Bai Yan. After Bai Yan left with the Empress Dowager, his sinister gaze swept towards Nangongyi as the corners of his lips curled up into a cold and evil smile. Take him away for this king. The two guards replied respectfully. Prince Kang, Nangongyuan was also shocked. The one who made the mistake was Bai Ruo. It has nothing to do with Yi. Why are you being so stubborn? Before he could finish his words, Dikang's cold voice floated over. Peeking at this king's wife is the biggest mistake. The man's silver hair was demonic and domineering. He looked away from Nangongyuan and smirked, whoever speaks up for Nangongyi again, kill without mercy. Nangongyuan was shocked by her words and immediately shut his mouth, not daring to say another word. Under the man's powerful aura, anyone's heart would shiver. Even those people from the demonic beast sect retreated a few steps, distancing themselves from Dikang. Liming wiped the blood and sweat from his forehead. There was actually such a terrifying man in the world. And this man was the father of the Bai family's young master. Chapter 277. 277 A high-profile Bai family, 2. Brother. Diziaoun bit his lips. In the end, he mustered up his courage and took 2 steps forward, wanting to greet Dikang. In an instant, Dikang's cold eyes swept over. When he saw Diziaoun's conflicted expression, he frowned imperceptibly. What are you doing here? Diziaoun's expression cracked, and he almost cried out of grievance. She had been standing there for a long time, and her brother had only just noticed her presence. Was this her brother? Since you're here, stay and protect Chen Er. If anything happens to him, I'll settle the score with you. After throwing these words, Dikang had already left. He came quickly and left quickly. Nangongyi was also taken away by him this time. As for how bad Nangongyi's fate would be, only he knew. Diziaoun bit his skirt, feeling aggrieved. Chen Er, my brother is too much. I'm a living person, and I'm his sister who grew up with him. How could he not notice my existence? And, don't be sad. Chen Er won't ignore you like my bad father. Seeing Diziaoun's pitiful appearance, Bai Xiaoqin's heart also felt very uncomfortable. He raised his hand like a little adult and pretended to stroke Diziaoun's head. Really? Diziaoun's eyes lit up, but he quickly hid it and said with an aggrieved expression, then give me a kiss. Mother said that men and women should not touch each other. Bai Xiaochen furrowed his cute brows and was about to reject Diziaoun's suggestion when he suddenly saw that tears were already hanging from the corners of Diziaoun's eyes, and he looked extremely sad. Then I'll give you a kiss. He really couldn't bear to see Diziaoun so sad, so he moved closer to her and kissed Diziaoun's face. Diziaoun's eyes instantly brightened up, and his pretty little face bloomed like a flower. And, you're not sad that bad father ignored you? He wants to make me sad. Diziaoun raised his chin. If it weren't for you and sister-in-law, I wouldn't even bother to come out and see him. This time, it was Bai Xiaoqin's expression that cracked. Had he been tricked just now? Or was he deceived by the silly and sweet aunt? Chen Er suddenly really misses Mother Yingluo. At least his mother had never lied to him. In fact, he had always been the one to kiss his mother secretly. Ow will you? The glass dragon let out a sound of protest. It wagged its tail and came in front of Bai Xiaochen, stretching its head over. It also wanted a kiss. Bai Xiaochen understood the glass dragon's meaning with a single glance and immediately became angry. Glass dragon, you're so ugly and you're a male. This baby won't kiss you. Humph, if you don't want to kiss me, so be it. The glass dragon retreated aggrievedly. At most, she would ask the demon empress for a kiss. Glass dragon, if you dare to look for mother, mother will kill you. Even if mother doesn't kill you, my father will. Bai Xiaochen lifted his chin and reminded her kindly. The glass dragon's body suddenly trembled. He didn't dare to provoke the two people. If he did, little master would probably be able to eat roasted dragon meat. Because the beast taming had ended, most of the people had already left. The 5-year-old children who had come to participate in the beast taming had also been taken away by the imperial guards. However, there was still a group of people who stayed behind. They were all shocked and frightened. It turns out that the news of Nangonglin being the person of the 10,000 beasts greeting the ancestors was deliberately spread by Bai Ruo. To think that I believed it without a doubt all these years. Chapter 278. 278 The high-profile Bai family, 3. Bai Ruo is really hateful to the extreme. She snatched Bai Yan's position as the crown princess and even snatched away the identity of Bai Yan's son, the 10,000 beasts greeting the ancestors. I really don't know how she can take such a shameless thing as a matter of course. To think that the Bai family was so high-profile before. Once this matter gets out, they will immediately lose face. Nangonglin stood helplessly in the backyard when he heard the discussions of these people. However, with Bai Ruo and Nangongyi taken away and Nangongyuan leaving with a flick of his sleeves, Yingying did not even spare him a second glance. A child who had been raised to be useless was equivalent to being useless. In the tea house. Bai Su was sitting in the tea house with a cup of tea in his hand. He asked with a faint smile, Wei Qing, how have you been recently? The person sitting in front of him was the young man he had saved the last time. Wei Qing smiled. I'm almost fully recovered. I really have to thank you for this. I didn't expect to see you here. Bai Su paused. You saved me back then. If you need my help this time, I'll definitely help you. No need, it's not a big deal. Wei Qing forced out a smile. He had offended a disciple of medicine order, so why would he drag his brother into this? Wei Qing couldn't do such a thing. Seeing that Wei Qing didn't want to say more, Bai Su didn't ask any more. His eyes were calm and firm. Wei Qing, I saved you not only because you saved me, but also because I don't have many friends in my life. If my friends are in trouble, I will also die for them. Thank you, brother. Wei Qing raised his hand and patted Bai Ling's shoulder, laughing. I don't need your help for the time being. By the way, you said that the elixir you used to save me was given to me by your sister. I haven't thanked her personally yet. During this time, Wei Qing had been recuperating outside and didn't arrange for him to stay in the house. Therefore, he had never seen Bai Yan before. At this moment, a palm slammed on the table in front of Bai Su. He frowned and slowly turned his head, his gaze falling on the group of people who had come. Yurong's face was filled with arrogance. Her palm landed heavily in front of Bai Su, and the corners of her lips curled up into a mocking arc. Old Madame Yu also glanced at Bai Su with disdain, her eyes full of mockery. Only Bai Zhenxiang stood by the side and looked at him coldly, as if the person Yurong had found was not his own son. Bai Yan, I bet you didn't expect that my Bai family would have such a day. Yurong chuckled twice. So what if your sister Bai Yan is powerful? The Bai family has the demonic beast sect as our backing. Why would we be afraid of the phoenix house behind her? Wei Qing was furious. Just as he was about to get up, Bai Su held his hand tightly and his cold eyes shot towards Yurong. You. Yurong's face turned red with anger. This bastard still dared to speak so arrogantly at this time. Old Madame Yu laughed coldly, wrong why waste your breath on a dying person? When Lin becomes the young sect leader of the demonic beast sect, if he wants the lives of Bai Yan and her brother, wouldn't it be a matter of a single word? Hearing this, Yurong's expression turned for the better. She smiled and said, that's true. My Lin is so outstanding. People like you will never be able to reach this height in your lifetime. When Lin has power in his hands, who in the world would dare to disobey his words? She paused for a moment before continuing, even Dikang will be Ger's husband. Although Bai Ji's hair had been shaved off by Di Xiaoun and the word slut had been engraved on it, How could these people dare to disobey the orders of the demonic beast sect? Chapter 279. 279 What a loud slap in the face. Bai Zhenxiang, he continued, on the account that you're my son, let me ask you something. Do you want to return to the Bai family? Looking at Bai Zhenxiang's expressionless face, Bai Xiao's lips curled up in ridicule. Is it because you know that Yu Rong's bastard is gone, so you think of me, your son? It's a pity that I only have one relative in the Bai family, eldest sister. The rest of the people have nothing to do with me. Impudent. Bai Zhenxiang's expression changed drastically. Did you not hear what I said just now? Lin Er is about to become the young sect leader of the demonic beast sect and his status is transcendent. You will have more benefits by returning to the Bai family than by following Bai Yan. A few days ago, Bai Zhenxiang did not dare to say that the demonic beast sect was his backer. However, just a few hours ago, Ruoer had already told her about the demonic beast sect's arrival, and the Suanji emperor had even summoned her into the palace. Presumably, the purpose of entering the palace this time was to let Lin Er become a disciple of the demonic beast section. This matter was already set in stone, and he had nothing to hide. The people in the tea house couldn't help but burst into an uproar. The demonic beast sect was a behemoth that could not be blasphemed to the world. And now, Sufang Nangonglin had actually become the young sect leader of the demonic beast sect. This was truly a case of one man achieving Dao, his chickens and dogs rising to the heavens. No wonder the Bai family had started to be high profile again. I, Bai Xiao, would rather follow Bai Yan and wander around than stay in the Bai family. Bai Xiao's expression was cold and his tone was firm. Wherever she goes, I will follow her. In this life, I will never leave. Alright, I hope you don't regret your actions today. Bai Zhenxiang's face was ashen. Also, the news of the 10,000 beasts greeting the clan to welcome Lin Er's birth has already been made known to the mystical beast sect. They want to take Lin Er in because of this. Only a brainless person like you would reject the Bai family. He believed that Bai Su would regret it in the future. Let's go, he said. After throwing these words, Bai Zhenxiang turned around and was about to leave. Who knew that before he could step out of the tea house, he would bump into someone? It was a middle-aged man with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. His thin lips were as sharp as a knife. When he saw Bai Zhenxiang who had rushed out, he was stunned for a moment before he gloated and said, Lord Bai, why are you still here? General Lin. Bai Zhenxiang's expression turned cold. He had never gotten along with this great General Lin, so he naturally did not have a good expression when he saw him. What does my being here have to do with you? Shouldn't you be in the Imperial Palace right now? Why are you here? The beast taming is over, of course I'm leaving. General Lin laughed, his eyes full of mockery. Beast taming? What beast taming? Bai Zhenxiang was stunned as he asked. General Lin feigned surprise. So, Lord Bai doesn't know yet. Today, the demonic beast sect has brought a giant dragon to look for the person who sent the 10,000 beasts greeting the sect. They're letting all the 5-year-old children in the world tame the dragon. In an instant, the gazes of everyone in the restaurant landed on Bai Zhenxiang's family of 3. Didn't he just say that the reason why the Suanji demonic beast sect came was to take Nangonglin in? How did it become beast taming? Bai Zhenxiang's expression did not change. He snorted coldly and said, my grandson will definitely succeed in taming the beast. This is without a doubt. If Lin Er did not succeed, there was no need to talk about the other children. General Lin laughed so hard that he almost cried. Lord Bai's grandson is indeed very powerful. He actually dared to touch the dragon. The other children are not as bold as him. Unfortunately, the dragon's roar scared him so much that he peed his pants. Ha ha ha. Part 6 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.